welcome to yet another fine side tale featuring, well, who? Or whom shall it be? The answer to that is, of course, the absolutely delightful Lindsay Sage!
Hello.
And they are here because one of them wishes to say something to another one of them, and that may lead on to, well, who knows what. Let's find out as we dive into the first of our tales now that we've started the end of the campaign. The Empire in, shall I say it one more time?
Do it.
Ruins! With a stress on the roticity in the R. Ruins! So, what ruination are you intending to bring to me?
That could change the meaning of the word. We can get out of this.
Ruins!
Ruins.
As in R-H-U-I-N from the Bright College.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, nice indeed. And a good roticity they are there. That's all aside.
more
We don't need to be diving into Bright College lore when we're dealing with Ume and Alamenawaith. So, whom is approaching who, or who is approaching whom, pardon me, to really slap myself in the English face?
Ume is going to go speak to Alamenawaith.
Alrighty, so when and where? This takes place 3 hours after the episode that ended with Ghart being spotted as a doppelganger. What has occurred since then? Well, he was arrested. Let's keep it nice and simple. He was arrested by the Sigmarites and is currently held in their custody. And there has been some significant hoo-ha already between the Middenlanders and, well, the Middenheimers, pardon me, and the Sigmarites, both of whom are quite convinced that they are in the right of it. Leopold has been denied an audience with Volkmar because Leopold doesn't have the rank, and also Leopold wasn't entirely forthright about, the fact that he was going to be sitting in some meetings in the future. Not that he actually knew.
No.
But here he was with his friends that magically appeared from nowhere, and suddenly he's sitting
on the opposite team.
On the opposite team, exactly. So it appears that audiences are not easily being granted anymore. And it's all got a bit difficult because quite clearly the Sigmarites are going to go. On the next day, the Middenlanders, it's obvious that most of them don't actually care. Yes, he might be a hero of Middenheim, but he's a Reiklander. He's a Reiklander, and it's Reiklander business. They're not allies with the Jungfreuds. There has been no deal with the Jungfreuds. If anything, if Hunksa ends up getting his way, they're going to be on the other team. And this is a good way of securing it. A very good way. Indeed, he has even said so. Don't even say what the problem is. Reiklander business, let them deal with it. And he just folds his arms, and that's it.
Shouldn't have pissed him off, Ghart.
Well,
You're taking your medicine now.
Yeah. Ghart and Elric, it's fair to say both of them did kind of annoy him at the beginning of the episode, but it helped because it got him in a destabilized position, and it meant that he almost certainly did what he did at the end of that last episode. If it wasn't for them destabilizing him, he probably would have just stuck with what his orders were, which were very much pretty much tell them where to go with the twin tail comments. Yeah, you got to do the Ulrich one. Exactly. Ulrichen. Big U here, or the wolf ears if you prefer, or alternatively, the twin tails of Sigmar. Peace, sign of Sigmar, the not so peaceful sign of Sigmar. So, some people are concerned because it looks like Gerhardt's going to be yanked away from the rest of the group. And it's late on that evening. The entire Middenheim party intends to travel north in the morning. It's freezing, really cold. It shouldn't be winter yet. We are in autumn, but nevertheless, snow is blanketing everything. And Yume, pulling her cloak around herself, crumps through the frosty snow over to the carriage where Alamenawaith has encamped herself. She has not pulled out a tent or decided to go into any of the nice potential accommodations that were laid up. She's just sleeping inside her old carriage.
You can move it around.
Yeah, you can. And we will start with a gentle gentle tapping upon the side of the carriage from Ume.
Elemental, are you awake?
I am awake. You may come in.
Inside, it's quite dark, and indeed, you may come in. A single candle burns over in the corner, and she unfolds herself where clearly she was doing whatever it is that elves do that's equivalent to praying or meditating or whatever it is they do. You have still yet to divine what is and isn't important. You've seen her at points doing religious observations in weird outfits, paint upon her face, naked at other points. Where it all starts and ends with her, you just don't know.
Uh-huh.
But here she is, all wrapped up, probably because of the cold rather than any religious sense, but even then you're not so sure, in many a scarf with one pulled high up on her face, which, upon seeing you, she pulls down, showing her face. Alaminowith, in the time that you've been with her, has changed. And if anything, you'd also say she's become more exasperated. Perhaps that's one of the reasons why you're here today. And more desperate, at least in how she's projecting herself. But as she pulls her mask down, the difference between the Alaminowith you met all the way back in Delbren, the Alaminowith who travelled with you from Altdorf down to Bugenhafen and through the canals, eventually into the river systems, has also changed. She's taking more care now, where beforehand, she was almost slouching her way through it. Now she has very carefully painted her face, and you can see it. She would often at religious observations paint her face, but now she has made a concerted effort. Underneath there, her lips are perfect. Her eyes are very perfectly highlighted and shaded deeply around to highlight the grey of her eye. It's always unnerving to people who are not human to see an elf's eye. They can never be certain what they'll get. Her eyes are just a misty shade of uncertainty. All picked out perfectly with the paint around it. Her eyebrows, again, perfect. And the thing that always slightly amuses you, to this day, you've never really managed to pick out a pore in her face. I mean, presumably she must have, but her face just seems perfect. Her skin seems flawless. And her hair is brushed. It wasn't before. Beforehand, she just didn't bother. She just let it lie. And elves have very light, silky hair anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a significant difference between hair that's been very carefully positioned to frame the face and hair that's just been allowed to fall.
Mm-hmm.
And she no longer lets it fall. And it's obvious. It's hard not to take a moment and just go, I am looking at a piece of art that has been very carefully prepared. Mm-hmm. And it feels like it was made for me.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't let yourself get caught up in the minutiae of the other person's face or the small, ever so slight small smile that tweaks up at the side of her face because she's fully aware that she is very much making the most of what she has, and it has an effect. It's almost like pulling it down like that was designed to make you go, huh?
Yeah.
Damn it, I've gone, huh?
Daniel!
Yes, quite. The cold air washes in from outside. It's astonishing just how much these human-made carriages can actually hold when it comes to heat. It's also astonishing just how much they can't. You have carefully wedged in
Scarves
around the edges of all potential draft entry points. I'm watching two of them fall down at Yume's feet into the snow. Just leaves you slightly annoyed because it's going to be colder in here.
I do miss Nuln sometimes. It's warmer.
I mean, this is unseasonable, though, even for up here north.
You close, get your scarves.
I've made draft excluders.
Okay. Sorry for bringing in the cold.
That's all right. You are always welcome.
Thank you. I didn't really know who else to speak to. I don't know if they'd even get it, to be honest. Today just hasn't gone well.
I am so thankful you said that. That is how I feel.
I mean, obviously, Gerhard being arrested, not good. But even before that, just just I understand why they do it, but the way the others were behaving and Lupul not speaking up and me, like I spoke out of frustration. That is not the position of control or power. We were just kind of fumbling along.
Yes, I have grown more frustrated, and when I do, and when I then try to make it my point, I just feel I come across like a whiny parent, and it makes it worse, and I just didn't know what to do anymore.
Yes, and
I couldn't speak.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if an elf had interceded and started to tell them what to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not like mine went much better. So it just was a whiny child instead of a whiny parent. Yay!
But I thought you were brave.
Oh, thank you. I just, on reflection, I think the marriage has its benefits, but I just didn't want him to make decisions without having more information, you know? I don't know. I'm still unsure what the right call was, but it's happened now.
I think for what it's worth, if you hadn't spoken up, I think the marriage wouldn't have happened. I think Hunksa was almost certainly set to just fall back to his orders and tell him to go home. And Volkmar used your intervention skillfully, which suggests he's a politician, by the way, a skillful one who can react in the moment, to needle in a very sharp way. And he knew what he had done because he apologized to you afterwards, which is why I interceded in case to say he didn't need to apologize, to imply somehow that it was our plan all along. I mean, why not? But Ume, when I was younger, I never understood quite what my master was telling me. He would tell me how important it was not to have pride, and I interpreted that as meaning I shouldn't care about my appearance, that it was bad to care about my appearance, that pride in my appearance was antithetical to the path that I was on. And my path is to manipulate from the shadows. Joros would say, if you've bared your blade, you've failed. My role is to ensure that others bear their blades or put their blades away without even realizing that they've done it because of something I did or said. And it was only later that I realized that I had completely misunderstood what he was saying. He was saying, you shouldn't have pride in your appearance. But that doesn't mean your appearance isn't important. What it means is you shouldn't have pride in it. You shouldn't have shame in it. You shouldn't have pride when you look beautiful, and you shouldn't have shame when you look dirty. What you should have is a plan. And when you need to look beautiful, you should look beautiful. And when you need to look young, you should look young. And when you need to look like a filthy slut off the streets of Nong, you should do that. If that's what you need to do to get them to move. I thought he was needling me. He once called me a slut, and when I looked it up in the lexicon, because I did not know what the word meant, I found that it had 3 or 4 meanings. And I feel that he meant all 4 of them. It wasn't just the one. And that got me thinking. At the time, I thought he was just being mean to me and showing how much more clever he was than me for knowing that there were 4 meanings to the word. But later, when I met this group, and now I've come to realize that he was even then imparting a lesson. Just because you say a word or someone says a word to you, it doesn't mean that's the only thing the word can be. So, all of that to say, care is different to pride.
and I get that. I do want to say it's probable that he was both mean and trying to teach you something, just so we don't let him get away with just being mean to you. I think it's both.
Perhaps. I mean, I would imagine he was very bored. I'm sure he got some measure of amusement by making the lesson obscure and mean-sounding. It made him laugh. He was laughing at me in hindsight, but in hindsight, I thought he was only laughing at me.
I see.
And in hindsight, what Volkmar may think is, you did look like a child.
Yes.
But on purpose.
Well, perhaps. I mean, is that what we're going to... Because Leopold wasn't allowed to speak to him. We have to do something about Gerhard. We can't just let them take him away.
Yes, I mean, if anything, we can't, because they will probably torture him and he will say some things about us we wouldn't want him to say.
Yes. I hadn't even thought about that. Oh my god.
Harsh, blunt, fair.
That is definitely what he's going to do, isn't it? He's just going to say stuff and then hope something lands.
Yes.
Okay, so we need a plan.
Yes. But I do think, though, I think you were absolutely right to speak up. And I think the way you were when you spoke up meant that Volkmar was able to use it. But I think I can help you with the lessons that my master taught me to manipulate your appearance more carefully so you can have that effect when you want to in future. We maybe don't have all the tools here. It's maybe one to consider.
Okay. Well, I've definitely done some of that before, so maybe
absolutely.
we can test it out.
Yes, before, you and I have always done it in a way that because we needed to hide.
Yes.
You and I needed to hide, or you needed to hide, so you disguised yourself. Sometimes the best hiding and disguise is to be absolutely there, as you know. And
so
we need to talk to Volkmar then.
I think so. I mean, I'm not looking forward to it because clearly he's a much more skillful politician than I am. But I know the basics, at least. I've been around in diplomatic situations with my parents. Yes, of course, I was told to just shut up and kind of be pretty on the side. But I've seen them.
Can I do a lore politics roll?
In what regard were you looking for?
What? Wait, do you have your seal, don't you? Your imperial seal.
Mm-hmm.
What would the rank of her as an imperial Nipponese person be if she unveiled herself? Could that get her over a priest captain?
Yeah. Give me a roll.
60. We'll find out if that's a success shortly.
Let's find out.
Is it good or
is it good?
It bad?
It's bad.
Oh, sorry,
it's
my
good.
iPad's not on.
It's bad. We'll never know.
I'm fairly certain it's 6 successes, but it might be more. 7 successes.
Oh, sweet. 7 successes. That's good. All right. With 7, difficulty is that. So that's going to give you, if she can prove her rank, and her rank would be the granddaughter of the Emperor of Nippon. So a royal. An actual royal. So if she were to pull royal rank, then yeah, that's probably going to get you an audience with almost anyone. Not anyone, but almost anyone. And he leads an influential order within the cult of Sigmar, the Order of the Throne. They have their own ecclesiastical ranks, cult-based. And he's just underneath the Grand Theogenist, and he's super important. So you are then left with a couple of questions. Is there a religious angle that might come in here? And the answer is probably yes on 2 fronts. Front number 1 is that he is, as far as you're aware from what Leopold said, blessed by Sigmar. Which means that he's probably going to be aware that Ronald is watching over her. That is possibly to her benefit or to her detriment, depending on personal circumstances. Beyond that, you also have the Imperial Seal. an imperial seal that she carries with her that is, at least to your very weak senses, relatively magical.
Okay.
It might kick off as something like that for him too, particularly because you are aware that Leopold has already, he can see it.
Okay.
He knows where it is. And if he can see it, that means it might be holy as well. And if that's the case, the presentation of what is effectively a holy artifact and a requirement to speak to WFRP, I mean, it might get somewhere. I mean, if she can prove that she's of royal blood, which she can, she's of foreign royal blood, but nevertheless, you don't want to accidentally be kicking off a foreign issue. Now, the pawns on the other side of the world, offending them, who cares? But it depends how much of a diplomat this WFRP is.
And he seems to be like they wouldn't send him with this particular thing and him get that particular outcome if he wasn't diplomatic.
So you might be able to get something from that. Although if that's the case, then you might want to, I don't know,
have a wash. I mean,
do what little you can with the current rather frozen surroundings.
Does Ume have Master of Disguise?
Yes.
Good, that helped.
Yeah.
So Master of Disguise talent, just so that we know, what does it do?
It allows you to disguise yourself without the trappings.
Using a disguise kit, exactly. It means with a movement of
Plus
how one holds oneself. Etiquette Noble will allow you to enter the world of nobles with ease.
Do you have Etiquette Cultist as well?
I did not
I
speak.
don't think she took that one.
No, that's fine.
She's never been too
in.
hot on the whole religious side of things.
I just... Because, Fernandans aren't really either.
So,
I feel like if she was still a proper Ranelden, if she claimed she was a high priestess like she did in Kemperbad, they'd almost let her away off with it, because they're like, well, of course a Ranelden would just do it when it suits them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I think the problem here is that Sigmarites are famously iffy. Well, everyone's famously iffy about Renald. Some Sigmarites will be really hard line about it, right? Because Renald do have a seat in the... Renald do come to the whatever it's called.
Yes, the conclave.
The conclave, so they are more formally recognised in some ways than some of the cults.
Yeah, they absolutely are, and they send representatives to it.
But I think you want to lean on the Nippon.
The way Ume's holy visions work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes it's just things that are associated with that god.
Yeah.
Right? You could spin the angle that the Nipponese god that has blessed me is very similar to what you call Renald.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
You know.
So what does that mean as you then attempt to articulate that as all in a way?
Well, what we could do, and it would actually make sense of why you spoke up, is you could declare yourself as the daughter of the heir, show your seal, and ask to speak with him, to tell him that Ghart is part of your investigation that your parents have charged you with anyway, to investigate the Nipponese embassy attack, and that Ghart's a key witness. You want him back? He's interrupting an investigation?
Yeah. I would have... we would really have to get across the incognito part, because I should have an entourage that obviously we do not have, but...
Yeah, so you've been investigating it incognito.
Yes.
And he has forced your hand because he's taken
Yes.
a hero of Middenheim captive, who was a key part of your investigation.
Yes. But then, are we telling him about the investigation? If he is a good guy, like Leopold said, from his sense in the Shining Place, and he's close to not just protecting the throne, whatever that means, but also...
By the way, Alamenowith, rightly or wrongly, has interpreted this as not only does his order protect like the bit that Sigmar sat on, which may or may not be an Ulrican temple originally, right? An Ulrican throne, right? But also that somehow he has a duty to protect the actual office of Sigmar's throne, like the concept of Sigmar being an emperor, and therefore he would have some holy duty to investigate. So do you think he would have some sort of holy duty to investigate if we told him the emperor was potentially compromised?
That's what I'm thinking. Like, how much do we do we have to tell him? That
Right. So if you tell him, I'm investigating the Nipponese embassy's attack, you traced it to a group of people who are creating doubles to infiltrate and control key figures in the empire. You found this Ghart one, and we neutralized him. He's now safe. He's a tool that we're using to investigate further. And we have evidence for that. We don't need to give him the evidence. We just tell him, because you're Imperial.
Sure.
We know that this group, a third party we're still investigating, has been able to create bodies for certain key figures in the Empire. We saw them. One of whom is the Emperor. The doubles don't know. Your Emperor, Order of the Throne fellow, may be compromised.
You need to do something.
We know that he hasn't seen Deathclaw for a number of months to years. That's because they couldn't recreate that bond.
Just to be clear, Deathclaw being the Griffin. That the Emperor
we know they
rose
now
when he was
have, and they're bringing the Griffin, and we believe in the next 2 to 4 weeks, Karl Franz, the Emperor will return to Deathclaw. If we are right in our investigations. We also know that there is another Gerhard double who is currently infiltrated and spying on your Grand Theogenes. We suspect that Middenheim may have been infiltrated, and that is why the Grand Duke of Middenheim was going to march to war with Reikland, and we were here to try to stop that happening, to keep peace in the Empire, which you and we did together.
Good job.
Thank you for your help. And that's what you need to say to him. And that's it. That's what you say. Don't explain anything else. And he'll have questions, and we'll be able to answer them, because all of that is true. And we'll say, if you allow this double to be tortured, he may be tortured by people in that group. For instance, the people that spoke out yesterday clearly didn't want the marriage to happen. Why would they not want peace between two families in the Empire? They chose an opportune moment to attack, and now you have him, and now they have him. If you allow him to be tortured, you are passing information into the hands of potential cultists and enemies of the Empire, and they are everywhere, and we have seen them. Leopold has returned from Nuln, where he was investigating them, and if you bring him in, he will tell you to swear by Sigmar that he has already investigated and found some in Nuln, trying to influence the court there.
And we know that they have infiltrated the court because we found that the people who attacked the embassy were Reikland 1st Regiment.
Yeah, and we also know that in Middenheim,
I don't think we need to go into that much information.
But we also know, if we're challenged in Middenheim, that the same, potentially, a group of cultists, not necessarily the same one, manipulated events so the Grand Duke believed that Reikland had attacked Middenheim when it hadn't.
That's true.
Well, that's an interesting
I think that's what
theory,
you should do.
at least. You've got a direction. Do you plan to put it into place? And if so, what's your first step?
Can you do that?
I'm gonna have to.
So what's your first step?
The first step, I think, is getting
washcloth.
cleaned up. A washcloth and a basin.
Alrighty, so that's going to be all manner of fun.
And
Getting yourself all cleaned up.
we're not telling the others, right? We're just doing this.
I think we have to. So what if they want to come with us?
We're just doing it.
Are you suggesting that they might cause problems with your plan? I do love a sidey stream where people make plans cunning and naughty by themselves. Do love it. So, without the aid of Elric to warm up some water, without the aid of anyone other than yourselves, you do what you can to turn someone who's quite unpresentable into someone who is relatively presentable. There is a large, significant impediment towards that, and that is clothing that's appropriate. You're in the middle of nowhere, almost literally. And she has a very unique figure that is much shorter than your own, quite different to your own, and is not going to be taking on board really any of the clothing that's available from the folks here.
I know strictly this is maybe not what the talent is exactly used for, but she does have Master of Disguise.
She does.
So she's
it's not
allowed
what the
to
talent's used for.
appear as other people without necessarily having the right clothes.
Yeah, that's not what it's for.
No, okay.
I mean, it's a good try, but yeah, that's not. You're not going to make yourself appear.
Follower of Dahagli.
But yeah, she's no follower of Dahagli. Yeah. She has not got the god of tailors and seamstresses on side here. But you do have the necessary talents to make best of what you have.
And she does we've both got etiquette nobles. So we both kind of know.
Trade grooming.
And trade grooming. So we both know how nobles stand and say things.
Yeah,
and
look, that's not in dispute here.
Yeah.
We're just simply with...
Yeah, and I was in
Getting past the
incognito.
game.
I'm not going to change my clothes.
Yes,
that
no,
much.
I think Volkmar will understand that. I think it's just getting past the guards at the gate.
Yeah, quite. You're attempting to change your demeanour somewhat, how they perceive you. On that, I'll drop it down to a single trade grooming roll, which can be assisted, which means you both roll. Whoever gets the most successes is the winner and is assisted by the other.
4 successes.
I think I failed.
Well, you'll be glad that Alamenoith was there.
I listened when
As you're like, and she's like, no. And you're like, but no. But I don't like that. I don't care. Pull it. No, this has to be placed over here. It feels uncomfortable.
This is why I don't like it.
Yank, pull, until eventually you've got something that is a semblance of, not so much empire nobility, but at least the sort of clothes that they might wear in Empire Court if they were grubby and messy and covered with several scarves to hide the fact that they're all their own clothes.
I mean, a travelling cloak can go a long way to
can.
cover sins, I would say. A travelling cloak and warm furs wrapped around you.
The 4 successes, however, have been largely placed upon the face and the hair. It's an amazing what very carefully paced paint and carefully arranged hair can do to what somebody looks like. And in the half candlelight, where Umi's eyes see blessedly little, but to Alamenoith's far sharper, shadowy eyes, she has seen ladies at court who have looked worse than this. It has no strong nods to her Nipponese roots, largely because
I wouldn't know
you
where to
don't
start.
know how to do strong nods to her Nipponese roots. And her attempts to influence what you were painting have been largely ignored.
Yeah. He's not going to know either.
Her face paint is not exactly imperial noble. You hark back to your times as the Adorabelle, back in Null Court. The paint that you use is almost 20 years out of date in terms of style. It's a classic style. It's a little bit like somebody appearing in, I don't know, let's do it a modern equivalent. Someone in a music video who purposely dresses like they're back in the 60s. Or the 70s.
It's like more
or the 80s. Or the noughties. Doesn't matter which decade. It's a previous decade and you're harking back in style. Because the style that you use...
shiny eyeshadow from the late 90s, early 2000s.
The style that you're using is the style you preferred, which was already out of date by some 30, 40 years because it was based upon Joris's preferences and he preferred what came before to the nonsense that was in court at that particular date. Meaning that, yes, the 60s is a better call, or maybe the 70s.
You've got real cat wings.
You've got the equivalent.
Like white polka dots.
The Empire equivalent, okay, which is out of date.
Sure.
But also to its potential benefit.
Maybe it's come back.
It's also somewhat timeless.
Yeah, fashion is cyclical. And
It absolutely is.
I'm a trendsetter.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Quite. And your trend-setting rags will nail it.
Yep.
Nailed it.
Perfect! Right, so having nailed it and having not worn this much paint for quite some time, feeling a little bit nervous, this is not your natural territory. Your natural territory was scamming your way through people down in the east end of Altdorf and kind of getting off with everything because you were short and girly and they all kind of wanted to look out for you. And that was kind of great. It was something that brought you many advantages. And when you were on the court side, you were told to shut up and say nothing. You never really did the talking part. I mean, as you said yourself, you kind of know what should be said, but you've never had to articulate those words yourself. You've never had to actually formulate word by word in a coherent sentence, possibly coercive, possibly persuasive, or just hopefully not pathetic sentence that allows you to position yourself as someone with poise, a noble, and someone who has been charged, apparently, given your plan, by your parents to hunt down those responsible for the murders that took place in the Nipponese embassy at the beginning of the year. This is a well-known event. The chance that he doesn't know as someone from Altdorf is almost none. Huge stuff. Sent you on the run out of the city for fear of your life.
Yes. Before they leave, Ume is panicking a little bit. So he's a high capitula, right? And when I get to the guards, I request to see them, and I tell them who I am.
When you get to the guards, give me. I think if I hold your seal, I should announce you. That's more imperial, I think. But I'm an elf, and some people just hate elves. I think you should do it.
Given that you're traveling incognito, you wouldn't allow your seal to be held by anyone but yourself.
Yeah.
So her immediate idea is
wrong.
you feel no. But if you are intending to use it, revealing the seal is not necessarily a bad idea. Or you can sense your mother's disapproval just at the thought of doing it.
Yeah.
But
I'm not supposed to show it to anyone.
But the reveal, no.
Oh, okay. It's like my scars.
Nobody's eyes are ever meant to see it. It's extremely sacred, but it is also likely to get you what you want because there is not going to be a blessed priest in that place who's unlikely to spot it. They'll sense it. It brings the imperial court to heel.
But it has to be open.
It has to be open for that to happen. When it's closed, nothing. Opened up, and whatever it is that this seal is, the jade block that lies within, all inscribed.
It's jade.
It is.
Oh, that's interesting because of, the jade griffin.
She's gonna open it facing herself so people can tell it.
Feel that.
Nice.
That's
like that.
nice.
Keep it in.
Nice detail.
Good one.
Okay.
But first of all, announce yourself that you are here to speak to the High Capitula Volkmar.
High Capitula Volkmar of the Order
the Order of the Throne. On, would you say on behalf? Like, how would I would know how you would announce yourself, right?
You have never had to announce an imperial noble
No.
Nepal.
No, but what I mean is, if I've got etiquette nobles,
Yes,
right,
you do.
and lore heraldry, so I would kind of know what order you do it in. Do you say, I'm here to see, or do you say, I am such and such, I demand an audience with?
Absolutely. She outranks everyone else. She comes first.
Yeah, so you should say, I am your full name, such and such of such and such. I demand an audience with.
And if you wish to do it in the imperial way, it will be your name followed by your house, your household. And it will be, if you're doing it fully correctly, title then name. In your case, princess
Title.
is the title that you've taken
So-
on.
So I am
House
Princess
of Korshkala,
Umi, House of Korshkala. Yeah.
representative of Nepal.
Of the imperial family of Nippon. I would put that in just to make it clear.
Okay.
Otherwise, they'll just think you're from Nippon. They won't realize you mean the whole thing.
Okay.
You demand to see High Capitula, or request, demand. I mean, you would demand
Demand.
Demand to see high capitula, hold the
You've
vault.
heard your mother use that language more than once when going to see the emperor when she's been refused. And she moved from simply saying one thing to, I demand. And the court sort of paused.
And then I would say, and then the seal bears witness. Say something fancy. I don't know.
Seal bears witness. It doesn't have eyes.
To your demand by opening the box. Or present the seal. I don't know. Just do what you would do.
I'm going to look at them haughtily if they dare to ask for proof, and then show them.
And then show them, yes.
Okay. This worked. That one's worked before.
I mean, I don't think they'll ask for proof first. I think they might laugh first. So I think that's why I feel you need to perhaps preempt that, because once we're on the back foot and they've laughed, we're in the laughing position, and anything we do is fighting back against that. So in this case, because we're in very much a position of weakness, I think we need to go straight in. Strong. As strong as you can.
Open it immediately.
That feels to me.
So.
Bear witness.
Bear witness.
It's late in the evening.
And
elsewhere, Middenlanders and Middenheimers are drinking. Middenlanders because several have gathered. The large groups that had made their way down to or up to the place of the Shining Rock had not gone without being noticed. And certain Middenlander scouts, groups, have gathered on the periphery to basically report in spies. Middenheimers, mostly cats, Knights of the White Panther, are drinking, some of them really quite uncomfortable with how things have unfolded. This is not how it was planned to go. There is a large number of these cats, almost 100 knights, fighting men, not far away, almost on the opposite bank of this river of empty diplomacy. On the opposite bank are the Sigmarites, who are ready. Several of them are armed, holding their camp quite clearly and firmly with hammers, expecting treachery at any moment, expecting someone from the opposite side to just do something wrong. Now, the reality of this plan, meeting the reality of the snow and the cold, has turned into many rather frigid, so cold Sigmarites, some of whom have given up on the stance that they originally intended to hold. That was their plan, been replaced with. Some of them have even taken to wrapping cloth around their heads, because most of them are bald. And they're getting really cold. A couple of them have just got big hats that are deeply inappropriate for their Sigmarite outfits. Their shining armor, their comets, and their big floppy hats with feathers hanging off.
Amazing.
Because it's so freaking cold. Some, more wisely, just have cloaks pulled up and around them. But it is worth noting there are many different answers to this. Some just staunchly hold their place, their fingers slowly turning blue. There's over 80 guards spread along that you can see on this side alone. For a camp of almost 400, a full quarter of them are on high alert, expecting some form of attack. And that could be because they've already refused all attempts to communicate with them. The order of business is done. They're finished. They have got a response from Middenheim, and that response is what they wanted. Any further negotiation might end up with a different outcome. So if they refuse to talk, it's really hard for the positions to change. In the center of their camp, the flag hanging limp in the cold air that presumably marks where Hindenstern is himself, his own personal heraldry, doesn't so much fly as just hang.
Hindenstern.
Yeah, Hindenstern. It's a Reikland family. And there is a moment where it feels almost like you're transgressing, going over the Rubicon, this great diplomatic empty river that lies between the two forces. Is a difficult thing to do, especially because one of the cats calls you out. I don't think you should be going over there, my ladies, says. One of the knights who, unlike the Sigmarites, is prepared for this weather. His armor, him being a Knight's Panther, is padded all the way on the inside
So jealous.
with fur.
Nice.
Okay, these are knights who are used to working to stealth, and particularly the Northern Knights. Unlike some of the Southern Knights Panther groups, they are quiet and used to the cold and used to standing guard duties over the royal family up there. They are quite used to this, and it's also fair to say that a couple of them have been laughing at the Sigmarites, betting those two over there which ones are going to give up their steady stance first. That one there's turning blue. Well, yeah, he's going to be next, isn't he? I'll say 2 silver. He's like, oh no, look at him over there.
And I bet most of the Sigmarites are common too, so it's an even more like skeezy, like
not a single one of these Knights Panther or anything other than
poor people.
It absolutely
kind of
is.
Awful.
Yeah, with the privilege of better armor.
Yes.
As they just look at you, really wouldn't bother.
You may believe what you wish. And she'll just walk away.
What? He says, somewhat surprised, as the elf pads on afterwards. Oh, bugger. We got trouble.
Quick, speed up.
As you pass up.
Let's go for it.
Yeah.
And Alaminowith, you hear behind. What does trouble mean? The word passes to one of the men-at-arms, who pops off and says, yeah, we got trouble. The elf and the little one. They're going over the camp. I don't fucking care. It's late. He says they can go over there as well. It'll be fun. 2 silver that's turned back before they can even say 5 words. And he says, well, so I just, it's not my problem. They do whatever they want. They're under royal order. He says, oh, right you are. So I shouldn't say nothing then. Oh, go on, piss off. He says, seriously, we're trying to drink here. Not much trouble at all, as it turns out, as you make your way over. The Sigmarite on the other side, with ice actually forming on
So cold.
on his armoured shoulders. With teeth chatteringly there, and looks down and says, "Hold! Halt!" He says, "Yeah, you halt!" He says, "They're right now coming into our camp."
She'll say good evening and do like a half very noble bow at him and say, I'm Princess Ume of House Koishikawa. I demand to see the High Capitular Volkmar of the Order of the Throne.
As he what? You? What?
I am.
He says as he straigens his back. Sorry, I'm very cold.
I understand. I would really appreciate it if you could let me through to speak to the High Capitular. I bring divine knowledge. And then she'll open the
thing goes, it's interesting. Alaminowith before you is a very cold Sigmarite. He is clearly some form of warrior priest from the cult of Sigmar. And he's listening to it, a bit confused, now a bit annoyed, and actually quite happy because he's allowed to move in a way that's not just chattering his teeth. And you know exactly what he's about to say, if not in word, in tone. And you were almost certainly spot on with your earlier guess. The amusement.
It's happened to me so many times.
It's already...
This is from bitter experience of being laughed out of places. I'm not wise.
It's hitting his face already.
Sad.
But it's what happens at the distance. It's what happens in the distance that you hear. What's that? From the central camp, the central tent. And you hear another voice. Oh, no.
Hopefully it's a good order.
And I could... Did we sit... No, I was going to say.
Anyway, to your view, almost nothing. As it opens up, there's that vague sense of... It's a little bit like a small amount of dry ice has been dropped on top of it, and it's just wisping up slightly. The touch of smoke, a touch of
the smell
mist.
of petals.
There's something there. On the inside of it is a perfect piece of, well, a cube of jade.
I mean, to be fair, I wasn't going to look because that's just, she told me no one's supposed to look.
Yeah.
It's disrespectful.
Yeah, you 100% didn't look at that jade.
I didn't look.
With Nipponese characters stamped upon it. I mean, is it that divine? You don't know.
It's not my area of expertise.
It really isn't. He reaches this point. Right, and from further back, "Go, Captain!" And heads along the sides are looking round as they're all like, "Go, Captain, head salt! Who's before you?"
Princess Ume of House Koishikawa.
"Princess Ume," he says. And then just stops there. As there's a crump. A tall fellow. Bald. A single braid of hair hanging down one side by his ear, and is threaded through with small hammers, comets, griffins, and griffins holding hammers.
Cute.
And more comets, all
Like
hanging
it.
down. As he comes in, looks over, looks at you. What is the cause of the ruckus here?
Princess Ume of the Imperial Family of Nippon demands an audience with High Capitula Volkmar of the Order of the Throne.
Are freezing. But
She'll then close the thing because it's done its job.
as we'll tell him that you're here. Behind in your camp, there's now movements.
Oh, interesting.
But before anything can be done from that part of the camp, you're lit in.
Oh,
Outside, calm. Inside.
Volkmar, House Hindenstern, is a man with a particularly impressive moustache. His head is entirely bald beyond this. Not entirely, there's a little bit of hair at the back. His eyebrows are thick and heavy, and he stands as he hears you coming. And it's not unfair to say he's a little surprised at who enters.
it's us!
It does.
As he looks at you as you pass into the tent, having been ushered here by the Sigmarite. And on the inside are three other men, all of whom are dressed not in their armor, they're in their black robes, all of which they're edged with different colors. I mean, you don't know enough about the cult of Sigmar to know who is whom, but one of them looks particularly impressive, but purely because they have spent altogether too long with the barber surgeon. They don't so much have a tonsure as they have a work of art.
Nice.
An elaborate flame that spills down his neck and breaks here with classical words written in the side,
Wow.
all very carefully shaved into his hair in a way that makes the single pair of comets to either side of Leopold's hair look exceedingly simple.
But like how does he do that every day? Like, how does he keep that bit just a little bit longer than the rest?
It means they must have brought a bunch of people who can do this with them.
He has a golden chain with a circular pendant with a flame upon it. That is his only other adornment beyond his bizarre.
But it's not a
Tonsure.
silver flame.
No, not a silver flame. It's a golden amulet, not the same as the silver ones.
Yeah. Because we've seen Leopold's.
Yeah,
thing.
Leopold's ones. It's a silver one. Silver amulet with a silver flame on it. This one is different.
Golden flame.
As he reaches up to his moustache and twirls it with the edge of his thumb and says, I didn't realize that I was addressing royalty early in the day. Please come in. says, from behind, a voice says, is this at all wise? We've got what we want. Yes, well, it appears that we have to talk a little more. Sam goes, please, sit down.
Thank you.
Are you sitting as well? You're going to stand behind her?
I'm going to stand behind her
Yep,
as
that
her
sounds good.
advisor. And I'm going to lean forward and whisper in her ear, but like loud enough almost. So it's not like... I'm going to just say, Your Imperial Highness, it would be better if this were done between you and the High Capitula.
And the High Capitula offers you a seat. Sit down. I suppose some introductions are in order then, he says. Then let us do them. I, as I believe you already know, LAWhammer of House Hindenstone. I am the High Capitula of the throne. He says, I answer to Sigmar. And to my left, he says, is High Inquisitor Ardens, the Order of the Cleansing Flame. He is the one with the impressive, almost ridiculously impressive tonsuring on his head.
What did his name was?
Ardens.
Ardens.
As he looks at you, just nods his head once slowly. Very plain black cassock with red trims on the edges. And to my other side, he says, High Father Gasper of the Order of the Cleansing Torch. The Order of the Torch. Getting too many cleansings in here. You're going to all burn!
I'm the cleansing torch.
The Order of the Torch. He says, he is the local high priest in these parts. We were just discussing local politics, were we not? He says, that we were. He says,
Was he the guy that wasn't here when we were here last?
you've seen neither of these two people before.
Yeah, because did we not meet the High Priest of Sigmar? Maybe...
No, not the high priest from the local shrine.
Not
He's
from
a high,
he's
he's
a
not
high
from the
priest
Order of the
from
Torch.
out of town,
That's
That's another...
the local guy is for a different capitula.
Yeah, probably the Order of the Rock or something.
The Order of the Shining Rock, exactly.
We're getting
You're getting it.
More
exactly.
theology in no time.
Yes, it's not him. It's not the local high capitula, or in this case, capitula of the Order of the Shining Torch. So Hindenstone says, I can't see why you would need to approach us now, but since we're here, what is it that you require, Your Imperial Majesty?
Yes, well, I wanted to discuss some developments since you have apprehended one of my men, which...
And to the side, quite rightly, he says,
Of course, you're only doing your
he's
duty,
almost certainly a heretic, please, High Inquisitor.
but there are parts that...
I will brook no intervention. High Inquisitor, please. He says, you have absolutely no authority over me. He says, I have my prisoner, and we will find out exactly what this prisoner knows. There's no need for you to express that to us when we all know already exactly what your intentions are. Restating them does nothing more than make you look weaker, as if you don't believe that you're actually going to get what you're here to accomplish. Do you believe you're going to get? That has nothing to do with it. And don't try to use your clever words to get out of this, regardless of what this thing says. Pointing in your direction. Apologies, Your Imperial Highness. She is a guest of the Emperor. You do not talk, says Hindenstern. A guest of the Emperor. You think yourself above him? I think myself above you, he says. I will have nothing to do with this. And he stalks out the back, pushes his way out through the tent.
Oh no, he's gone. Inside obviously.
On the other side, the high priest looks pretty uncomfortable. As he looks from one side to the other, his hands go up to his mutton chops as he pulls them slightly, and then they go back down again. He realizes he's got a nervous tick that he doesn't want to show everyone. Puts his hand back down and clasps them together like he was told to do when he was in a novitiate. Always put your hands together when you don't know what to do or say. That's what you're supposed to do.
Doing right now too.
That's what you're supposed to do. As he looks over at the High Capitular, he looks over at the High Inquisitor who's leaving. He looks at the High Capitular, he looks over in your direction, decides that he doesn't want to look at you at all, looks over at the High Capitular again, just the High Capitular's looking at him, and he says, "It is probably best that we conclude this evening early." Of course, High Capitular. Of course, he says, as he stands and bows. "It was an honor to be in your presence, Your Imperial Highness." Hindenstern smiles slightly at that. Stands and he says, "Until later." They shake hands. Mm-hmm. And goes out.
Ume nods her head briefly.
On the outside, Alaminaway, you quite clearly hear, "Oh, what's going on in there?" He says, "Oh, some elf and a foreign princess." He says, "Huh. So, did you get what we needed?" He says, "No, we didn't even get there yet." He says, "Bloody High Inquisitor came in. I wasn't going to say anything with him around. You might want to inquisit me."
Such a healthy call.
There's slight laughter. I mean, he wouldn't, would he? He says, "Well, you never know. He's from the Order of the Cleansing Flame. You never know what they'll be like. You never know. It's just best keeping your mouth fucking shut when they're about." So, are we going to get it or not? I don't know. I'll see if I can get his attention tomorrow as they make their way off.
Well, it's nice to know that the High Inquisitor has clearly left further away, because otherwise this guy wouldn't be saying these things.
Yes.
Yeah, he went in a different direction, out a different tent, flap. As Hindenstern says, "Would you like some wine? It's cold, bitterly so. And sadly, we can do very little to warm our tents beyond the 3 fires we have and, well, the rest that you can see. Wine?"
Yes, that
He
would be
says,
lovely.
stands up. "And how about your advisor? Is that what I should call you?" He says, looking back. "Apologies for being so short. He would have been within his right to call upon you. You are not an imperial citizen nor a guest of the Empire, which means he would have had first claim upon your body and soul."
I see. And then I thank you. I should not have been so hasty. I apologize.
You should never be hasty when you're around the cult of Sigma. You should always take your time in what you say. You should always make sure that you don't influence or, he says, he passes you a goblet, insult in ways that you don't realize. Many of my cult are...
Who thinks of the things she's going to say?
Many of my cult are short in temper because they believe they're in the right. He raises up his goblet and he says, "For the Emperor."
For the Emperor.
For the Emperor.
Take small sip because she needs her wits about her.
More poisons, anyone?
Or maybe she needs her wits to be loosened. One or the other. Which is it?
I don't know.
Sip.
More! High Capitular, there is much for me to tell you, and much that has happened, but I will start from the beginning, if I may.
He raises one bushy eyebrow and says, "Am I going to be sitting down for the long evening, am I?" "I don't wish to offend," he says, "but we intend to be off early in the morn."
I will try to be brief, and then you may ask any questions you may have.
Thank you.
You're a princess.
Okay. I'm sure you're aware that the embassy was attacked in Altdorf.
Embassy?
The Nipponese embassy.
I'd heard.
Earlier this year.
My condolences for your loss.
Thank you.
May you more watch over those troubled souls. And he takes another small drink, puts down his goblet.
You know, I escaped, and so did my parents. And since then, I have been investigating what happened that night.
And have you found the perpetrators?
To some extent. But what it revealed was an alarming truth about the Empire and Altdorf specifically.
Alarming in what way?
Unfortunately, the capital is riddled with cultists of the ruinous powers.
And you have proof of this?
Yes.
Here, that I can see.
Well, one part of that is the man you apprehended was a witness.
Well, I'm sure the High Inquisitor will find out everything needs to be found out then.
I worry that that is not the best way to get the information across to you, and that is why I have come out of my hiding to speak to you directly, so that we can avoid misunderstandings and miscommunication.
So you intend to, let's say, inform me before I get what could be a different testament from this
A man
Ghart.
under duress.
If I may.
You may not. Have you not been informed? Leave the tent now. Leave. Your staff are rude. Very
Yes.
rude. And incapable of acting with proper decorum. I am here because of proper decorum. I'm listening to you because of proper decorum. And that idiot elf thought it could somehow intervene. You thought to bring it. Why?
The elf, Alomena wife, is following a path that allows...
I don't care about the specifics of her being. Why would you bring it here?
She keeps us safe from the eyes of the cultists, of the ruinous powers. She keeps this conversation unseen by those powers.
Elf trickery.
In a way.
Well, if you have something to say, tell it to me now. It has been a testing day, and I do not wish to see anything that has been determined changed.
As much as I would prefer my man back, I understand that. But you must know that we have uncovered evidence that there are cultists who can duplicate people to the highest degree. There is a double of my man Gerhard, who is the real Gerhard of House Jungfreud down in Nobdy.
So he is not the double, he is the original. Is that what you're saying? And what we have is some doppelganger.
Exactly. But
Well, it is good we arrested him.
we have neutralized him with the help of the High Magister.
Neutralized him. He is walking free.
We have made him safe to do so.
You're saying that he wouldn't have been safe?
Exactly.
Why?
Because they can be controlled by these cultists. And they have been placed in specific positions of power or to advise people of power. Once you get back to Altdorf, you will be able to see the truth of this. Because unfortunately, there is one very near to your Grand Theogenist.
There is one what?
One with the same face as Gerhard.
Advising
Yes,
the Grand Theogenist.
we saw them together the last time we were here at the
And where
place of
did
the
you
Shining
get this
Rock.
intelligence? Simply with your own eyes?
Yes. In my investigations, I have seen many
Folds
doubles.
his arms.
And unfortunately, that is not the extent. We have seen doubles of the Emperor.
Oh, please. Now you rave.
I would love to be able to tell you that it is fanciful illusions, but it is not.
What proof have you that the Emperor could possibly have some form of doppelganger beyond his own, I presume, security? Doubles to attempt important events lest he be a target?
Well, there is one. His griffin, Deathclaw, has not been near him for months now.
Oh, rumour and conjecture.
Well, there is a reason for that, and you will get your proof because those cultists have found a way of copying and duplicating Deathclaw and are planning on replacing him soon.
This is nonsense.
I understand that it is hard to believe. And that
A
is
lunatic would come up with such a plan. Thanquil. Down below. Thanquil will reign supreme! But no, it's not a lunatic's plan because apparently it's working. He, however, lunatic.
if Deathclaw is replaced in the span of perhaps even weeks, you will see the Emperor interacting with Deathclaw again.
That is convenient for your theory, isn't it? The very thing that you say proves that he is not him suddenly is no longer there. This is fanciful.
Well, you do not have to believe me, but I beg of you to stay alert and to investigate in your own terms.
I, of course, recognize the depth of concern that you bring. And I also thank you for taking the time to inform me of your position concerning His Imperial Highness. However, it's clearly nonsense. It is clearly rubbish. I don't understand why you believe this, assuming you even do. And I don't know why you would bring an elf into these proceedings to further dirty and sully your reputation. Whatever your goal is here, Princess, the pity that I held for what I did earlier, let us say that it has been spent, and that we are instead left here. Whatever it is that your Ghart, your doppelganger, does or does not know, we will know soon.
He is a hero of Middenheim and has been acknowledged by the very man you're seeking to form an alliance with. I would just
But
advise.
he is a double, is he not?
But the double was recognized. Not the man down in Nuln. The man who has been traveling with us has saved Boris Todbringer's life with us and unearthed the cultists in Middenheim.
And you think that any mistreatment might reflect badly, or badly enough, upon the upcoming deal? I think not. He's a Reikland noble. I don't think his court will put any pressure upon him, nor do I think that he will hold this man with any particular reverence. A foreigner from the south?
He may not, but the Baron will.
Why?
Because in the time that we have been in Middenheim, some of us have grown close to the princess. I, of course, have kept my identity semi-hidden, but the elf, for example, has been in close contact with her, and she holds us in high regard.
State it plainly, if that is your intent.
The Baron is the one to convince for this marriage to go ahead. And you would be putting that you would be jeopardizing that. I am not saying you should release him.
I don't think you understand the position he's in. The High Inquisitor is very interested in what he represents. And he is not someone who is easily denied. He has the authority to claim this supposed friend of yours who is yet also somehow a foreign agent that somehow has been nullified by means uncertain. All of this you claim to be truth, and you request, not unsubtly, that he be very carefully tended. And if not, you will advise the Baron to not progress with my deal. Let me understand that's what you're saying. Is that what you're saying, Your Imperial Highness? Because if that is it, if it is a threat, I would like to hear it clearly. I am not one for political situations and the bandying of words. If you're threatening me, please say it, say. Now, say it.
I am not threatening you.
Then there is nothing for us to be concerned with. I will have him tortured and we will be done with this.
And
If there is no threat, there is nothing for me to be worried about, is there?
And you will also
The deal is done.
threaten the man who stands next to your Grand Theogenes?
I care nothing for that. It will be pursued. That has nothing to do with the deal in front of us. And if my deal is not threatened, then I have no reason to not see through what I have with this thing. Whatever it is.
But the deal you are trying to put through, which I am not opposing, is for the Empire, for the unity and the longevity of the Empire. Is that not true?
Your words mean nothing. Because the deal is done. It's done. I'm not sure what you're here for, Your Imperial Highness. But it appears that you support what I have already established. And now you're here to mince words around it. Are you here for your friend, or are you here for the deal? What is it? I'm finding it very difficult to understand. I prefer people to speak things plainly.
I am here for my friend, but I am also here.
No! I don't want to hear alsos. I want to hear it firmly and simply.
I am trying to save the Empire from the end times, from the ruinous power.
Now you're talking in conjecture and nonsense.
Have you not heard the prophecy?
I care nothing for prophecy. Prophecy's for fools. Prophecy means nothing. The gods do not know what comes next. The world of man is made by men. Sigmar made the Empire, not the gods. And the Empire stands by our might, by our decisions, and by what we do. Prophecy is the realm of the ruinous powers, who determine the future so that they may fix it towards their preference, not in this empire. Perhaps that is how it works back home in Nippon. It is not how it works here, Your Imperial Highness. And if you are not threatening anything, if you are not here to change anything, then why are you here at all? What are you here for?
We need more allies in the...
I care nothing for your allies and your talk. It is very simple. Do you have a reason to be here or not? If you do not, get out.
High Capitula, if you will not listen to my words, perhaps you will from someone in your own order.
I care nothing for your manipulations. You and your cult can bluntly leave us alone. I will have him tortured.
Very well.
Because he is a representation of all that attacks us. And you, the gods alone know what you want. Because I don't. Are you done? I believe I have been as polite as I can be.
Very well. Thank you for your time.
Take him away! and you were taken away. On the outside, Menowith, who did indeed hear all, the dismissed elf sees the slightly shaking.
I'm so mad, but I got sorted.
She comes out, and you are escorted pretty sharply from the camp by 4 bald-headed Sigmarites, leaving you in the cold, empty diplomatic river that lies between you and the Knight's Panther. Saying anything?
Ume will be acting as if it was all a success.
Yeah, don't.
It's great!
We haven't just made it more likely he gets tortured. Our friend Ghart.
I think it's more likely. It's just
I think he was
likely.
probably going to get tortured anyway.
I mean, we didn't know there was a High Inquisitor.
No, we didn't know there was a High Inquisitor, which is worrying in and of itself.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Fun times. I mean, it's already a blessing that we didn't get caught by the High Inquisitor, to be honest.
Out the other side, you say anything?
I'm sorry.
It's okay, but we're gonna have to work on that. On me as well.
I've just seen advisors intervene before. I didn't really think.
Yeah, well,
It was my fault. I should have thought.
turns out he's a bit of a wanker, so...
I'm just as bad as the others.
It's not... We just are all out of our depth. It's not that any of us are bad necessarily. We're just...
You know what I mean? You took me. You should have gone by yourself.
And then what? Just let everyone scry what happened?
That's true.
It's fair. You were close enough.
I did
Saying
stay
yes.
really close to the tent.
Yeah.
Yes, I assume
Stuck
so.
up against the wall. It was always a long shot to convince someone like that what you were telling him.
Well, I'm just hoping that once he gets home, he actually looks at it. Because the truth is there.
Well, I think the thing is, I think he thought you were coming to tell a different story than what they would get out of the Ghart double.
Mm-hmm.
But what they're going to get out of him if they actually torture him is exactly the same story in much greater detail.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't lie under torture.
Well, I mean, they do.
No, they don't. They really, really don't. Unless they're very, very special.
Ghart, very special.
Fair to say that you can be very easily forced to lie.
Oh, you can be forced to lie
Yeah,
under torture.
very
People
easily.
do lie under torture. That's the problem.
Yes, absolutely.
He'll say
If
whatever
he doesn't
thinks.
have the truth that they want, then they'll get that truth out of him.
I'm worried.
To begin with, he'll tell them the actual truth, and I'm more worried that the Inquisitor is one of the reason the Inquisitor's so interested is because he's one of them.
Yeah.
And they want to know exactly what he's doing here.
I mean, I think we need to leave as soon as possible before they speak to him because the others are in danger as well. We are more or less who we say we are, but Elric, Birdie, Leopold.
Oh God, and he's going to say it.
Maybe
If
you
he's
should have
gone-
threatened him.
Yeah,
I should have threatened him.
you should have threatened him.
Yeah,
But
it's the
with-
realization it's in. If that comes out, then Elric will be marked as a Black Magister.
But
Birdie will be
With
marked for
what?
death, and
Yep.
Leopold will be cast out because of they'll believe he was the double.
with what?
With the deal. I can make it. You were right. The Baron will decide. And bluntly, the Baron will decide how I want her to decide. I'll persuade her. You can threaten her.
I mean, not anymore.
Not anymore.
Well,
I think the learning is it's really hard. Right? But no, what's hard is knowing when to be hard and knowing when to be soft. Because when we have no power, we always have to bend over for these powerful people, men. But we always want them to like us and be happy with what we're saying. It's
Yes.
all right for them not to be happy. It's all right to threaten him, but it feels like it's not.
Yes.
I could sense from outside that was the block that you were encountering, that he was saying, are you threatening me? And you wanted to say no.
It's more like I thought it would immediately get us in trouble instead of
Exactly.
sometime in the future get us in trouble.
Exactly.
But how many times did you see your mother threaten the Emperor? Several.
It's a
Yeah.
hard transition. When you have no power and no position, threatening them will get you into trouble.
But you did, in this position, potentially actually have power.
Well,
Potentially.
potentially, at
Yeah.
least if he was willing. I mean, he could have still
Assuming he
killed
believed it.
you.
Assuming he believed it.
Exactly, assuming he believed you.
The problem is that he knew I was a Reynoldsman.
I did not appreciate that until right at the end.
Right at the end. Yeah.
Yes. No, I assumed, but
And it left him a little bit angry as well.
On edge.
Yeah, totally. But nevertheless, you got the audience.
yeah.
Yeah, you got a position to state, but we didn't nail it home. If anything, I think you're possibly accurate. You've made it more likely that Ghart receives the careful attentions of the High Inquisitor. And that could be horrendous in repercussion. So this isn't a matter of we walk away, we could have done it better. It's a matter of
We have to fix
lives are now on the line. If you don't fix this, you have potentially outlawed some of your closest allies.
We were saying that we didn't want to take them along because they'd get us into trouble.
What are we going to do?
And what actually happened, the kind of
Exactly.
opposite. Oh God, what have
We
you
were
done?
just trying to make it better.
And
Sorry,
you
everyone.
possibly made it so much worse. So, as we sit there in the diplomatic river, the empty, snowy expanse that leads out towards the place of the shining rock and into the trees on the other side, one encampment there, the other encampment there, and little other than your own footprints in the snow. What is it that you're going to do as you sit there, looking at each other in the middle, realizing you have created a situation which may already have been the situation?
Yeah, I mean, at least we now know it was the situation.
Yeah.
Because actually the High Inquisitor leaving and him getting angry with us did tell us more about what's going to happen.
I mean, you have learned
We
something.
also
here.
learned that the High Inquisitor was very interested because he blurted it out in anger.
He did.
It's easy to kick ourselves. I feel like if I hadn't spoken, he wouldn't have been nowhere near as angry. But then, of course, maybe he would have been because you were a Ranaldin and who knows?
What do we do, though, now?
Right, what are our options? Go back.
Okay, the
White flag.
really like direct ones, the ones the others would suggest, right? Attack, kill, get rid of the High Inquisitor.
I did think that.
I mean,
No.
it's gonna start a whole other investigation. It's not gonna help.
Well, it's also not possible, I think, for two of us to... We cannot, let's put aside, we can't attack this problem. We can't kill this problem. We can't do the diplomatic way that we had initially thought we might be able to. Well, we've partially done that. You at least did impart him some information
I mean, yes,
that he will now be able to use with his eyes. When he goes back to Altdorf and potentially sees the other Gerhard, that will be a sobering moment.
yes, but that would be too late
But
for
it'll
our
be too
friends.
late for our friend Gerhard and our friends who...
You only have one problem before you, and that's what's going to happen to Gerhard. And it's going to happen potentially sooner rather than later,
Yeah.
now that hands have been pushed. So you need to make an impact sooner rather than later. And you have very little choice but to act somehow. Or just let it go. I mean, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Absolutely does. I mean,
We can just start sending Magister Vigilance after Elric. It'll be fine.
fine. We could use hunks.
To do what? The thing is, their deal is done.
Yeah.
So both sides are now in a mode where they want inertia. Hunxa won't want to rock the boat because he's annoyed. But he said what he said and he won't go back on his word. He's a Middenheimer.
He's done it now.
And the High Capitula doesn't want to lose the deal. We still have, the only piece that we still have is that we can stop that deal.
Yes.
What if?
And it's not just we can stop it. If I do not speak to her, I can tell you now that the deal will not go through. So if they kill me, if I die, that deal will never happen. I can absolutely promise them that.
But unfortunately, he's also speciest. Won't just speak to you by yourself.
Not that, well, even if he could, there's nothing I can say that you can't say.
I mean,
I'm
I
not
guess
saying me speaking to him is going to help. I'm just saying that the obvious, if we say that the Baron can be convinced by the elf, then he's more likely to murder me just to get me out of the picture. So, well, if she's got influence over the princess, kill her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now we're going to worry about you as well. What if we uncover who we think are probably cultists within their midst and distract the High Inquisitor with them?
We don't have time.
I mean, it's a lovely idea, but how are you going to do that by the morning when you can't even get access to the encampment?
So an option is literally to write a letter to Volkmar. So rather than say it, no.
What, so they have proof about the threat?
Well, ultimately, if you're threatening, you're going to threaten one way or the other, and letters are a very common route to doing so.
Because it is clear that I'm an elf and you're a foreign Ranaldin. So being in the same room as him provokes emotions in him that is hard for us in our position of weakness to counter. So a letter lets us put everything down as we intend it without him shouting and making us freeze.
Okay.
He's using his strengths
He's using
to his
his
advantage.
strengths. And when I don't know about you, but when I'm shouted at, I sort of, like, I do what I did. I try to intervene and I try to say things and I speak really fast, which obviously got me thrown out of the tent.
Okay.
And when you get threatened...
So I can see the pair of you are going to start stomping back now.
And when you get threatened, your natural response from what I saw in the tent is to try to pacify them. Which, in his case, was just... Well, he's not the kind of... You don't... It was just getting him angrier because he wasn't being threatened like he apparently wanted to be threatened if you were going to threaten him. So...
Time to take the bins out. That was our alarm there saying, take the bins out, because we're taping this on a bin day.
It's called bin.
An all-important intervention into our stream as they try to seriously and very calmly deconstruct what went wrong and how they can hopefully construct a new route towards success.
We see that he can't cope with us talking to him. We can't cope with talking to him, but we know there are things that he must know. One, we'll come to that, and we can put them in a letter.
Okay. I mean, it's the only thing we could do.
So, Alaminawaith and Yumi have decided that didn't turn out as well as it could have. But they have learned something. They have learned that Ghart was going to be tortured.
Yeah.
And that was probably going to happen soon. Now, by their intervention, they have learned that that's the case, which is bad for them and their friends, but mostly for their friends, not for them.
Yeah, we're chill. I've got a magic license.
Yeah, quite. And whilst there was potentially in that meeting a method of resolving it, that didn't happen.
I need to be more of a dick. Yes.
Yeah, but that's important to learn.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yumi's never done this. Yumi is a neophyte when it comes to diplomacy. She has got all of the practical awareness of what's involved, but actually doing it when someone is shouting at you is hard. It's hard.
It's fine when it's criminals.
Yeah. But then you just charmed them all.
Mm.
They liked you because you were little Yume. And they all ended up sort of breaking their little harsh external shells. And that might have been because you were blessed by a god of criminals. It kind of helps, doesn't it?
Mm.
But here, your blessing did the almost opposite. Hindenstern is noted for not having much truck for the other gods.
Oh, well,
Not having much opinion
Yeah,
in the slightest.
Apparently.
we didn't
didn't-
know that.
No, but Leopold did. He's watching this right now, I imagine, going, "What are you doing?" Yeah, he knew.
Well, you should have maybe spoken up last session then. We would have asked you.
I can hear the recriminations on both sides. But here we are, with the pair of them furiously at just past the 12th bell of midnight. Scribbling away over different letters that they could put into place. Trying to figure out how they can roundly and cleanly threaten Volkmar in such a fashion that will get the response they want, which is nothing more than, "Don't torture me, mate."
Mhm.
Just
Lucas is with
Talk.
us, right? Sigfeder stayed behind and Magritte
Correct.
stayed behind.
Yeah. No, Margarita is here.
Magritte is here.
yes, you can.
Yes.
Margarita's definitely.
Damn, she would have been really useful. A noble Reiklander.
Damn
Should have
it.
sent her.
And someone who is in age,
In a-
older than anyone else here, bar
and
even
and
Alamanawide,
has
she's only 50.
evidence of the plot.
Yes, she does.
Maybe
I
she
forgot
should
was
go in.
here.
Bit late now. But one can, of course, speak to someone else if you wish to bring in someone like Lucas. I'm
But-
sure he has an opinion.
Well, but
these
Lucas
things.
is a schemer, right? Like
Yes, he
he's
is.
got it, and he also has he's quite a diplomat and composed writing. And,
Yeah.
and most importantly, his master
Okay.
is about to be tortured.
Yeah. Okay,
So
so
we need
it's
help
time to bring in
write with-
Panic Lucas.
No.
Bring in
It's
the
time
Panic
to
Lucas.
Bring in the grown-ups.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
It is.
Marguerite and Lucas?
Magritte and
Are you double tagging or are you going to tag one at a time?
Together? I mean, we don't have loads of time.
we don't have loads of time. We'll bring them both in.
Okay, cool. So who's going to fetch whom?
I'll fetch Magritte. You fetch Lucas.
Yeah.
Okay, Marguerite has her own little carriage that she holds. She, however, has tented herself quite separate from everyone else. She finds the grounds here a bit uncomfortable. She's encamped closer to the forest than almost anyone else, separate from everybody else. Quite far away from the place
Because
of the
if
shining
he
rock.
spills-
You're going to Marguerite, yes?
No, I'm going to
You're
Magritte.
going to Marguerite, yes. Okay, so Marguerite is in her tent, and as you pad up through the crunching snow, she'll call out before you get there, "Who's coming? It's past the midnight hour."
It's me. It's extremely urgent. We need you now.
She
Your life
pops
is
out.
in danger.
Her hair is all down, which it almost never is, in a big floof as she looks at you and she says, "I'm not looking for company."
Your life is in danger. You have to come with us. Ume and I have spoken to the High Capitula. The High Inquisitor is here and he's going to torture Ghart. You know what that means for you.
Oh dear.
We need to resolve this. Ume's fetching Lucas.
I'll get a shawl. She wraps a shawl around her hair.
It's a mess. And we maybe made it more of a mess, but at least we know it's a mess now.
And she crunches out. How dangerous is it?
It's Magritte. The High Inquisitor of the Order of the Cleansing Flame is about to put Ghart to the question.
I don't know the odd.
They are the Inquisitors of the Sigmarites.
Are they? Interesting, I've not heard of them.
Cleansing Flame? Are they? Yeah.
Do you have lore theology?
I'm sure Leopold said that
Nope,
to me.
never.
The Cleansing Flame?
Nope, he doesn't know about
Okay,
the length
I've
of
just
flame.
assumed that they are because they're called the Cleansing Flame.
Sounds
And
good
he
to me.
called him an Inquisitor.
Yes,
Okay,
he did.
I'll
That's all
say-
fair.
He's a High Inquisitor of an order called the Cleansing Flame. And the High Capitula is about to let him question Ghart. Torture him.
Oh dear. She says as she crunches through the snow. What does Leopold think about this?
We haven't spoken to him.
Why?
We missed him.
I mean, Andy Lee's in here. Like,
That's not the reason. Nice try.
Because he didn't. I don't really trust him.
Because he's the other one. No, that makes sense. She says, one couldn't be sure what he would say. particularly given that this Gerhardt's not his Gerhardt. In fact, he might make it worse on purpose. He might do the opposite. It's difficult to tell. I can understand. It is an unwise choice of action to bring him in. He says, I'll agree in this instance.
Ume is fetching Lucas.
Is she? Lucas. Lucas is sleeping with the Knight's Panther amongst their crew.
My.
Not that way. And is snoozing away at the back in a tent with 3 others.
Go home there. Get it. Look at
As one of the knights says, oh my, midnight visitors. He says, how much do you cost, darling? As Lucas says, oh no, not in my tent, please no. He says, as he goes, oh, Mr. Zume.
Lucas, I need to speak to you.
As the other one goes, oh, damn it. Says, it's one of them. It says, it's middle of the night, it's freezing.
It's really urgent, I'm so sorry. You need to come with me.
Oh, right. Has it got to do with Gerhardt?
Yes.
Of course it's got to do with Gerhardt. He says he comes out, what sort of trouble has he got me into this time? You know, he's not even.
I know,
He's
and
not even.
I have other conversations I want to have with you about that. I know you must be worried for multiple reasons, but we don't have time right now.
Worried about my wife, if I'm being honest.
Yes, exactly. I totally understand, but I think I might be able to fix that.
Oh, God, it's cold. You could have brought a cloak.
I'm sorry. I thought you had one.
I do, but it's back in my tent. Let's hurry up. Where are we going?
I'm assuming we decided.
My carriage,
Yes.
presumably, because no one else goes there, right?
Into your carriage as he comes in. Where's everybody else?
It's just us.
We
Oh,
don't.
yeah.
We don't have time, and we don't trust some of them.
What?
Well, we don't trust Leopold
Why?
because we don't know if the other thing can still hear him.
Oh, my. Right. Aye.
And to be blunt, we need your expertise and Magritte's expertise in this.
Magritte's
Very
sitting in the
quick.
corner, rubbing her hands together. She looks up and she says, it appears that things have got a little out of control.
Yes.
Let us, she says, have everything explained so that we can make some choices here.
Almenoef and I went to speak to the High Capitula, and blah, 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 blah happened.
And you explain. As Lucas goes, oh my, no, you should have hit him hard.
I know,
You should have hit him very hard. Why didn't you?
because I only realized after. I'm not used to this.
Oh, no. Right, say it first. Let's just make it very clear. When you're in a position of strength, you smash everyone. He was in a position of weakness, so he was trying to smash everything around him.
I know.
In weakness, one feigns strength. In strength, one feigns weakness and then follows it through with a hammer.
Well, that's what the letter's about to be.
I suppose we could possibly, assuming we can get the letter to him, he won't want to read it because he won't want to have his hand pushed, which means there's going to have to be a method of.
I could put
Well,
my
let's
seal
concern that afterwards.
on the envelope.
We have to get this written first. Lady Marguerite, would you like to write it? Your handwriting is quite remarkable. She says, I suppose. This is very dangerous. This isn't your fault, she says. I can understand why you might try to take it upon yourself as your problem, but the problem existed already. You found out about it. You didn't fix it. That is the problem. That is all. You didn't fix it. But we have a chance here to fix it, she says.
The adults are here.
Lucas. Well, he's a Sigmarite, so one has to be relatively polite. We have to recognize his position, Marguerite says. I tend to find that when one is dealing with the cult of Sigmar, one is often best just simply putting it straight. Your deal will fail. Let us keep things blunt, and it will fail and explain why. Do you really think we want to be that blunt? He says, as his hands go up to his face. He rubs at his eye patch. Come back. If we're that blunt, what if it gets into the wrong hands? We're basically threatening. They might decide not to give it to him because we're being blunt, which is why we have to make sure that he receives it directly by hand. It's going to be difficult, but we can worry about that part afterwards. Most important thing is that he get the letter. Now.
We know that the high priest of the local Sigmarite order needs something from him.
Oh no, you're going to be sneaking it.
Oh, okay. Sure, that's fine. But
She
doesn't
says-
he already hate the fact that I'm sneaky? Like, won't that make him...
It's perfect. He expects it.
Oh, okay.
And he deserves it.
Okay, fair enough.
He bullied you out of that room. By your description, he bullied you out of there. And if Lucas is correct, he did it because he was afraid of what you were going to offer. Lucas says, it's quite obvious, really. Says he had no position, and he could see it all slipping between his fingers, and he decided he was just going to get you out so that nothing could impact his deal. And he's probably fretting right now for fear that the deal he has set up is going to collapse because it's now outside of his hands, that a third party that he has not properly pinned down is going to maneuver. So he's going to be fretting. How can he ensure this doesn't come to pass? If he's a martial man, he may attack our camp. If he's not, gods, I hope he isn't. But if he's a martial man, and if he's a man with little in the way of honour, he might attack our camp. It would be bloody. And they might be surprised at the effectiveness of the Knights Panther. Especially because some of them, not that I've overheard it, but some of them were ready for fighting anyway. Oh, this is awful. Right, so I'm not sure you're correct in just simply, he says over to Margarita, simply stating it, I think would be unwise. No, she says, I don't think it's unwise. I think we state it as cleanly, as simply as we can so that there is no chance that he can do anything other than realise the threat to his position. So we are polite, but we state it clearly. It says, we recognise his title, we recognise his position. We then state exactly what the situation is and make it very clear that he has to give us a signal that he has accepted our terms. And our terms are that there is no punishment for Ghart. None. I mean, it might give him some character, a little light. She says,
it's not the
dungeon time
punishment that concerns me as so much as the extraction. So they whip him a little, likely, dungeon time, but not with the intent to get information out of him.
I can't believe you're talking so lightly. Dungeons are awful. She looks up. Oh, I understand. She says, I understand. And as she starts writing, I think I can phrase this just perfectly. That might not be true.
Can someone assist her?
Yeah, anyone
do we
who's got
need?
composed writing. This is where
I
you
do
go.
have composed writing.
This is good. You get to do the test.
We are adding the contextual.
Mm-hmm.
I've got composed writing too.
Whoever rolls the highest number of successes.
Oh, 4. Well, I rolled 4 successes. I don't have
Yeah,
that
it's
many
an advanced skill. Yeah, so you've got probably just a success.
Yeah.
So that's one
Oh,
success.
so close. 23 to a crit.
Ah, so close, because that would have been all the successes in the world. So, how many advances you got?
I've just got 5.
So that's enough for one. I'll add Lucas as well, which
Did Lucas crit?
Lucas critted.
Yeah, Lucas!
He didn't crit, so he adds
but
an
can
extra.
it swap to him?
Yeah, whoever scores the highest when you're on an
Yes.
assisted test gets the core number, and then for everyone else who succeeds, you get 1 extra success, which means we have a crit
That's why we
with a
brought
total
him.
of 1, 2,
in.
3, 4 total success. No, 3 successes on top of that as well, so that's 11 successes. No, I forgot to add 3. 14 successes. Oh, Marguerite's written a good letter. No, you should perhaps, no, really, how about I dictate? Says Lucas. And as Lucas dictates, and Elric, elsewhere, sleeping away, is completely without any awareness of just how much his fate is being determined by some few scant words in a letter. Leopold, who's currently down in the shrine itself, right by the crystal that is the shrine of the Shining Rock, sleeping in there, having been given dispensation to do so.
Oh.
Yeah,
Nerd.
quite. By the
Nerd.
We'll be done.
by not just the local Sigmarites, but also the Ulricans. It's a privilege, and he was super excited to be here. And to potentially sleep here it's beyond a privilege.
I mean, to be fair, that's why we haven't gone and got him, because we're probably not allowed in.
No, you could have probably crawled in there. We all know the real reason. Nice try, trying to get out of it.
We don't want to go
But he's in a position where he can't hear anything either because he's very far away from everything. So you're a crazy
He
scheme.
can't judge me for it.
He can't judge
No,
us.
he totally can. But that will come later.
Niski, you can't judge me for it in character.
He totally can. As we then arrive at the finished letter. It is quite short, just a single sheet of parchment. Very carefully written, nice little, very carefully written by Margarita, most of which has come from Lucas. Everybody has piled in with their own individual thoughts about things that should be said. And we have come to a pretty clean conclusion. And that is that if he doesn't pass control of the Ghart over to the Order of the Throne, and he is not treated as a political prisoner. It's a definition within imperial law.
Oh, is it?
Reikland law. A political prisoner is treated as their rank, in this case, a noble. A political prisoner, and it's marked in as Ghart of House Jungfreud. Not saying he's a double, not saying anything. He's treated as Ghart. He's got his patents of nobility. And indeed, the letter references the very patents that he currently carries, showing that he cannot be questioned by the cult of Sigmar. It is illegal. There is only one who can question him, and that's his own father.
Oh, yeah.
Which means you have to go to Graf Sigismund. You cannot interrogate Sigismund of House Jungfreud, because his real name's Sigismund, not Gerhard.
Oh, Ghart.
Yeah.
I am shook.
Okay, Marguerite knows, and as does Lucas. Well, you don't know. His name's Sigismund. Sigismund Ghart, and then lists his 4 names.
He's so privileged.
Yeah, indeed. It's essential that he is the one who, as the leader of this group that has arrested him, takes responsibility for the arrest, and that he's taken as a political prisoner back to wherever it is they're going out of, presumably. And that if that doesn't happen, the deal will fall through. And it will fall through because the Baron will be advised not to accept.
And how is he proving that to us? Because he's supposed to give us a sign.
Raise a Jungfrau banner to show that the banner,
To show he's
To
there,
show-
because
to
they
show
have to show
that
he's
he's
there.
there.
Yeah.
to show the colours of the Jungfrauds. He's now a political prisoner, not the
A
alternative.
heretical prisoner.
Yeah. If they do that, then it's accepted. Marguerite looks at the letter. Everything's in there. I'll redraft it one more time just to make sure. She says, I'd like to tighten up the wording up here. I don't want him to be under any shadow of a doubt that the threat is real. And make mentions to the champions of...
And also we have to make sure that it's not just that the Baron will be advised, it's that without the advice of this group is key, because otherwise he would just kill us.
Yes, I think it's quite important that we make sure that we are clear that without the advice of this group, she will not. And with the advice, she will go with the... Yes, that makes much more sense. As she then worries over the wording to make that as clear as possible. Because after all, you don't want Hindenstern to just go, well,
I'm just going to
if I
murder
kill
them.
them all, there's no longer a problem.
There's no longer a problem.
Now, one would hope that he's not that kind of guy. But when
No
it
one's
comes,
not that kind of guy.
but when it comes to politics
Am
of
I
this
right?
kind,
No
you never
one's
can
not
be
that
certain
kind of
how it's
guy.
going to turn out.
Yeah, and he turned out to be more of a dick than I thought, so...
So that then leaves a letter.
Good luck,
Yumi.
Umi.
to carry all the way into the tent of von Hindenstern to get it on him and to get out without being seen. So grab your best dice. It's time to see if we ain't seen her, right? So let's start off.
Mm-hmm.
Is she going to creep on through the snow up towards the encampment, or does she have a special plan?
I mean, creeping's not great anyway with her thing. She's just gonna go for it. There's plenty of space between here and there.
Loads.
If it fails miserably before I go in, they'll be able to tell me.
They'll challenge you.
Yeah, you just need to walk. I think you need to do it
so you're
right
just gonna,
from here.
You're just going to walk
Because
through
also-
and hope no one
Also,
challenges you.
for the
Sounds good.
purposes of the miracle for the praying, if she does it, the closer you get to the blessed priests in that camp, the more likely they are to sense some chicanery.
Let's, chicanery. Let's see if anyone's seen her, right? Time to pray.
Time to pray.
Time to pray.
I hate praying here. That's fine. It's a crit!
You are kidding me.
Oh my god, well done.
She may pull it out of the bag! Okay, let's get the total number of successes. Roll again. How many did you get in your first one?
66. And then...
So 6, excellent.
It's the 10?
Yeah.
So that's another 4 plus 2 abiding faith.
12. Oh, well, you're fine. Yume, feeling significantly more afraid than she would ever admit, tries not to creep. This is the hardest bit. She keeps her back straight and she imagines herself as the fox. The fox that no one pays attention to, because foxes are just silly little animals. Silly little animals that no one pays attention to. It's exactly how. And she finds herself not saying the words she expected. As she says it out loud, and mumbles through the story, just reciting the story. She's recited this story multiple times in different ways. She's recited many different stories, all of which have got a slightly different tone. Most of them from the Riddles 10. Most of them from that prayer book of Renald that she often has carried tucked away somewhere, that she tries to memorize the various ones so that she doesn't need to read it from the actual book. Stories of Renald creeping. They have been long successful for her. They have got her into all sorts of trouble and out of all sorts of trouble. But this time she finds herself slipping into Nipponese as she's working through the words. And accidentally doesn't say Renald at all. It's not that she intends not to say Renald. That wasn't the plan. The plan was to say how Renald had boldly made his way into a camp. Because he had. That's the whole point of using this story. That prayer that come to mind, reciting this holy myth. How Renald had slipped into the camps of Myrmidia herself, to taunt the goddess. Admittedly, the tone was perhaps a touch off. You're not here to taunt the Sigmarite. But a small part of you
Is
100% felt that you were doing it. It felt right. It felt right. It felt right. But instead of using the name of Renald, you instead name your ultimate ancestor. And her name spills and slips like the holy fox you are. And you almost feel yourself hunch as you skip forward, skip. And instead of walking back tall like Renald with pride issuing from every pore in your body, you skunk and skip. And not even a footstep is left behind in the snow as you dart across. A Sigmarite comes out of the tent, walks up towards you, and you bounce up onto the back of a tent and bounce off of that on the other side. As nimble as a fox. Nimbler. As you land on the other side, and you can feel it. As your body shakes slightly and a rippling across the slight fur line of your face. Well, you can smell him. He is afraid. You knew he was afraid. You knew he was afraid. His deal is going to fall apart, and he doesn't know how to stop it. And he did everything he could to ensure that it wasn't threatened. He got rid of the threat that stood directly in front of him, but he couldn't be sure that these children would not influence him. She could feel it, his nervousness, his annoyance, as she bounds over towards the command tent in the centre. Oh, how noble these lords of the northern wastes are, comes the thought in your head. How noble we are. That's not your thought, or is it? As you bounce into the tent, skid to a halt. He's there, hand on his face, rubbing at his long moustache, contemplating clearly the events of the day and how he's going to approach them. He doesn't hear you come in. He doesn't see you scamper across. Letter in your teeth. As you bounce, 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 and then drop it right by its feet. Laugh in his face, bounce backwards as confused. The high capitula looks down and sees it lying there, surrounded by fur. Furry mess. Wet, snow-lined white fur. The letter sitting atop it. Sigma says, could have helped me here. You don't care what he's going to say. You already know he's going to open. Curiosity is man's failure. Men cannot help themselves but be curious. It is how you bed them mostly. They just want to know what it's like. They want to know. They can't stop themselves. And there's no different here. This scroll is just as deep as any cave hole you've offered. As you bounce out, on the other side, Sigmarites looming large, covered in armor, huge weapons. You laugh at them as you giggle past. One of them reaches down, humongous paw, as if it's going to reach for you, but you just roll in the snow, yip a couple of times and dart off. A part of you is aware that one of them says, is that a fox? The other one says, don't be bloody ridiculous. But you're not hearing that at all. As you bounce up, roll over, dart out, and at the periphery of the camp, you shake your head and you're almost half a mile away. You're not quite certain how you got here. But you are also. You sent the fox and the fox delivered the note. Or you sent yourself. You're not entirely sure what happened there. Your dad said you'd figured it out in time.
Sure.
Is this what he meant?
To be fair, he did say...
Oh shit, you're cold.
Yeah, walk back. He prefers to be the wolf, so maybe he does something similar. Who knows?
Who can say? It is a difficult, long, 3/4 of an hour wait.
Because I have to walk back.
No. With Magritte, with Lucas, with Alamedawife, with a telescope, looking, with a telescope, looking, alcohol being
drunk. Do we need the telescope and move that far away?
No. It's the look.
Yeah.
It's the vibe.
It's the vibe.
As eventually, the colours of the young Freuds raise above the Sigmarite camp. Lucas goes, oh, bloody hells. I just wasn't sure that was going to happen. Good job, everyone.
Well
Good
done.
job.
Thank you.
Well done. I think you and I need to have a chat. Says,
Yes.
You've got power you can wield, and you're not wielding it frightfully well.
No.
And you need a new employer. Potentially.
Yes, that is part of the conversation I wanted to have with you, because I know you spent a long time with Gerhard, but we want to keep you around, and he can't do that for you anymore.
I'm not sure you can afford how much my family requires. As much as I appreciate the nice sentiment, and I have very little else to do right now.
Think about it this way. If I were actually walking around as a princess, I'd have hundreds of people with me. They know they would need to pay
I'm not
for
interested about that. I just want money.
Yeah, no,
I have a family
I'm
to look
saying
after.
they will pay for you because it
Who?
costs my family.
Do you think so?
Lucas, I'm going to have
Look,
to...
between you and me, your father didn't seem to be exactly the most reliable individual.
No, I will send word to Karberg, maybe. I've heard they've gone that way.
Are you? Thank you, ma'am.
Of course.
Excuse me, I think I might need to go to my tent. And off he goes, feeling quite emotional, and having been offered the money to pay for his family.
Wait. Alan, did I miss something? Why does he need so much money for his family?
Marguerite, sitting knitting in the corner, looks up and says, well, they wish to be kept in the manner they used to.
Right.
He's been sending them gold every single week.
I see.
From Gerhardt's father. From Gerhardt's father.
And now that he wasn't doing what his contract said, right? Because he wasn't actually supporting Gerhard of House Jungfreud. What if...
She stops knitting. Oh, bother. Oh, I can see why he's upset.
You think he'll ask for all the money back?
Almost certainly. Says, oh, I hadn't realised what he'd done.
I didn't understand either until this moment. That's why you said you wanted to talk to him.
The Duke Jungfreud just played this Gerhard. She says, played him for a fool, and Lucas also. Sent them money with the full intention upon taking it back later. She says, I'm actually quite moved by that. Played him for a fool. All of them for a fool, she says. It says something about the man.
I did think it was a lot of money, but I didn't...
It's not.
Oh.
Your understanding of coin is low.
Evidently.
It's not a lot of money for a man of his stature. For the advice he provides. If anything, it's coming relatively cheap.
Especially with all the danger he's been faced with.
He should have been paid significantly more given the danger he's been in.
I see.
Perhaps that's something you can take up with your family. He's not just concerned for the money at the moment. He's concerned for all the money they've been given. There's almost certainly going to be a suit coming from Reikland when there's everything sorted. Oh dear. Poor man.
I can speak to the Baron on his behalf.
I doubt you'll succeed. He's a man who's notorious for his stubbornness. Oh, you mean the Baron?
Does Margarita know? Margarita knows who Lucas really is, doesn't she? I lose track of who knows all the secrets, because she's been there while we've been talking. No, but I'll just say I could talk to the Baron. Lucas has done a great service for Middenheim alongside us as well. It might tide him over.
It might be worthwhile.
I will do that when we get back.
I think I shall retire.
Thank you for your help.
Thank you so much, Margarita. I'm sorry we had to wake you.
I wasn't asleep. Says, and she makes herself, pulls her shawl back over her hair, moves off into the darkness, leaving you two alone in the mess that you almost made. But fixed. And arguably, it was a mess that was there regardless. You didn't make the mess. As much it would be very easy to blame you, it isn't at all correct. You didn't make the mess. The mess was there.
The mess was there already.
The mess was there already.
We just didn't fix it on attempt 1.
Yeah.
We have to fix it on attempt 2, which as neophytes in the world of diplomacy is not unsurprising.
Yeah. 2 attempts is not that bad.
Yeah.
And really, as Ranaldon, it's almost like we
It's like before, right? It was all a flim-flam in the tent, and the letter was the real ploy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All you need to do
that's the truth now.
is
You
just
were
accept
putting
that
him
as your
off-
new
You were
truth.
putting him off balance when you were in the tent. Why did you bring an elf? It's a mystery. Why would you bring an elf? Well,
So I think it
never
would be
know.
unfair for us to finish it there because you don't really know if you've been successful or not. Because that would be a bit unfair. Have they been successful? And the answer is, yeah, you have.
Okay.
A beautiful mixture of criticals right at the key moment. Both a critical on the writing and a critical on the stealth providing. We have ourselves.
The critical on the going and fetching the grown-ups role.
Hey, knowing when to ask people who have expertise is
For
an
help,
important part of
They
future.
weren't the grown-ups. We asked the experts.
Yes.
And we have a couple of significant and large changes that are going to come from this. Number one, Ghart is indeed taken as a political prisoner and is taken to Alba, where he is effectively wined and dined because he is a political prisoner.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
He is not tortured by the Order of the Cleansing Flame. There are some significant issues amongst the various Sigmarites involved there where they're not entirely happy with this outcome either. But it is what it is. Hindenstern has pooled rank and authority over that particular situation and has successfully managed to keep Ghart out of that particular snare.
Good on you, Wolfmar. Good job.
Yeah, good job. So that's good. And we flip over to the Middenheim side. The long journey back to Middenheim is entirely uneventful. If by uneventful, you accept that there are going to be some witch burnings along the way. Nice. Mutant burnings along the way. Nice. Oh, not so nice as you're passing past, where are we? If we're going up through that road. We'll be passing not far from Prittstock, actually, as you're making your way over there. And there they've got some actual Sigmarite burnings. Burning priests of Sigmar. Yeah. That's enough to cause pause from the Knights Panther as they look out. And there's a discussion as to whether they should intervene. Too late now. Nothing to be done. But we should make a point. We should make a point. No, don't bother. Look. Because the colours to the local baron are flying. No, not worth it. And the party moves on. It's uneventful in that you're not attacked much. I mean, there is one attack from Sons of Ulrich. But the Knights Panther were ready. They suffer no casualties. The Sons of Ulrich suffer 4. Why were they attacking? Who knows? They were just shouting Ulrich very, very loud, wearing their pelts, presumably disliking the cats moving through what they considered to be holy hunting grounds.
I mean,
who even knows what their particular issue was? No Sigmarites attack. That's nice, eh? And back in Middenheim, things are still tense. Really tense. The High Temple of Sigmar is still besieged. There's no way for Leopold to get there. The palace itself is in a state of... it's building for war. They're getting ready. There's an awful lot of discussions about food, provisions, getting everything in line. However, we have a different issue now being presented to the Duke, the Grand Duke. Will the Graf, as he self-styles himself, and much prefers to be called, in truth is a Grand Duke, but the Graf, Boris Todbringer, go with the deal? 4 days later, we get the answer. Yes. And he publicly states it. Not just through his various mouthpieces. He gathers in the Middenplatz before his people and states that he will be joining the royal blood of the Todbringers. The House Holzwig-Abenauer in the south. And they will be keeping Holzwig-Abenauer within House Todbringer. there is shock, calls, boos, cheers. 3 days of rioting.
Reikland and Middenheim is no. Oh, that's so confusing.
3 days of rioting across Middenheim.
Could it be worse?
Behind the high walls of the Middenplatz, Boris, the Graf, is not completely unaware of just how bad things get within his city. But he has something on his side that makes it a little bit easier for him to make decisions of this ilk. And that's the power of the absolute monarch. Everything he says is law. Everything that he puts into place will happen, as long as he does. He can't just simply do a thing. He has to make it a law first, and then he can do a thing. And he spends 3 days in his palace ignoring the mess of his city, letting it just argue as he puts in place a whole host of new laws, making sure that should he be betrayed by the South, he's prepared. And the great armies that he intends to build instead turn into a great wedding party. As letters start winging north and south, with the intent of organising a big betrothal down in Altdorf, which in turn, for yourself, provides an opportunity to potentially somehow wheedle Gerhard free before whatever you've put in place with Hindenstern falls apart and he gets himself into danger. At the moment, he's almost certainly sitting in a palace dungeon, palatial room. It'll be nice enough. Yeah. Not nice enough for his standards, but nice
be like
enough.
Complaining, but
he'll have wine, he'll have some books to read. In the greater scheme of things, he'll be in a good place. Plus, he's a great political prisoner because, well, they're at war with them. Reikland gets a lot out of him being there.
Even if he's not really him.
Well, who's to say he's not really him?
But also, how can the Duke of Ubersreich, Newfallion, how can his dad be sure?
Yeah, well, that is an interesting point.
Is he really the real one?
So let us pick up.
Facade! Charade!
He's got the paper.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, his father is going to have a very hard time
saying that's not
his son. He has the patent of nobility.
Gosh, that's hard.
It's a toughie. That all aside, let's pick up affairs in the palace, the Wolfenpalats, indeed, in Middenheim. So, the Wolfenpalats is a separate building over to the far left-hand side of the main Paris, which has a big hole in the front of it these days, which they are still at work trying to resolve. Large sections of the palace have been just basically blocked off because most of the palace is still intact. They're still using it. And the parts of the palace that aren't just have large, do not enter walls put in place so that it hides the fact as you're making your way through the parts of the palace that exist that bit is gone. That's now covered in snow because it's been snowing. The Wolfenplatz is separate and where the Baron, the princess, holds her court, a completely separate court to where Boris Todbringer holds his court in the main palace. And of course, there's the Kralaplatz, where once the Ice Queen was Ice Queen to be, where once the, what's her official? Katerin, that'll do. Tsarina Katerin. Not Tsarina yet. She's Tsarevich. No, Tsarevich was Tsarevich is her brother, who's
I don't know, Tsarevich. I don't even know.
Who cares about titles? We'll fix that later. Where she was holding her court when she was here, but having left, and presumably in the company of Heinrich Todbringer.
Lucky her.
Yay!
He's not bad looking.
I hate that guy. He's not bad looking. I'll give him that. But on the inside.
And the Wolfenplatz is where we'll pick it up with the ramifications of everything that you've put into place slowly falling into place. The princess has been persuaded by her that the marriage is for the best. Apparently, according to the palace guard, most of whom are knights of Panther, they're not happy about it. Our Baron, not happy about it at all, but is going to do it for all the good reasons and the lack of war that might come from this. At least war with the Emperor, because that's a big ask. Warring with Middenland and taking it is almost exactly what Boris wants anyway. Warring with Reikland was nothing more than a cover for going through Middenland and taking all their land. So, at least this way, he doesn't need to war with the Emperor at the end of it. He can just take Middenland.
He can just walk through Middenland.
So he kind of gets to do what he wants anyway.
That's what I told you.
It's a little bit of cake and eating it going on here. So we will pick up for our final last little bit. Now, having come to terms with the fact that you haven't completely ruined everything.
Oh no, LAWhammer still feels like really, because she's an elf. So she'll be in a mood for months.
Oh, well, of course.
But you're always in the mood for something.
Yeah,
like,
for something.
In the solarium at the top of the Wolfenpalats, a large set of windows that look out over the edge of the great Fauschlag Rock. Now, when I say it looks out over the edge, it's high and looks down over the royal gardens and then over the edge. You can just see the maze where once you ran through. Sitting over towards the left-hand side, the royal tombs sitting out over there, where apparently the various royals who have ruled Middenheim have been interred since time immemorial. That's over there. But it's quite the sight as snow drifts down. You haven't been in the palace. You've been invited up by LAWhammer because she has taken to living in the palace. You're still the guest of the always lovely ex-champion who now is not only up and about, he's hobbling around his house. Most of his day is admittedly taken with drinking, and he is looking for basically anyone to be a drinking partner with him. And he has little in the way of interest of anything other than drinking, largely because he has yet to be entirely healed in places down below, leaving him somewhat less potent than he used to be. And that is giving him, if anything, even more reason to turn to drink, which is clearly going to help all of his problems.
Yep.
But he is relatively jovial. That could be all a mask and a facade. But it's nice to be invited up to the palace. It's also a completely different world. And it's a world that you've sort of left behind, at least for the last 6, 7, 8 months. And it's odd to be guided by the knights through the palace grounds, taken up through the long corridors and the stairways, into the Wolfenplatz, where there are, oddly enough, a lot of wolves. Statues line every detail. Big, huge wolves at the bottom of the stairs, guarding. And beside them, white wolves, because there is a very small white wolf contingent that also protects the Baron. There's only 5 of them, but they are here. And they like to stand beside the big wolf statues.
Of course they
It's
do.
their place. And Knights Panther everywhere. This place at any one time will have at least 40 Knights Panther sitting inside it, protecting.
Probably met a few of them by this point.
Absolutely.
LAWhammer will tell you this is the first time in a long time they've called the wolves to guard the Baron. Usually the wolves come and say, we're here to guard the Baron, and the Todbringers say, fuck off. I told her she should help.
Quite.
Because she's going to need all the help she can get as a woman, as a Baron, and becoming Grand
Being
Duke.
listened to is going to be tough.
You need all the friends you can
I
get
relate.
in this situation. Yeah.
And Katrine is in a somewhat similar place. She's only 20. Bless her soul. Exceedingly pretty. She has Raya's touch, shall we say. She has been blessed by the gods. An exceedingly pretty woman who can look almost doll-like under some circumstances. Too pretty to be even real until she moves. But she's not here. It's LAWhammer, who, in her court garb, also, you can't help but go, really fits. She's pretty. Her hair is up. Her eyes are bright. There's a half smile upon her face that you're pretty convinced is hiding the fact that she is in some sort of deep existential despair.
Before she gets here, Ume was doing her thing where she squints really far away to try and see better. She's been doing this like every time we've been somewhere with a vista. She's
With
been
a
like,
vista, yeah.
I'm looking down
am I
across.
seeing better now?
You are not. You'll get there one day, huh?
I look contemplative though, outside.
Alaminawith is obviously tall, her long blonde hair hanging down very carefully in a host of braids. And also a small wolf upon her chest, fitting in with the locals. It is, however, Katerina's personal heraldry. So, you've invited her to your solarium.
Hello. Oh, remember what we talked about down in the Shining Rock place?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought that now I'm in the palace, we can get out some things, clothes, paint,
I see.
and practice.
She's asked you here for not quite the reason you thought.
What did you think you were coming?
No, it doesn't matter.
Do you have gossip?
No, just the usual stuff. It's good to see you. You look well.
Thank you.
I'm not looking forward to this, but it is necessary. So yes, thank you.
Did you think I just invited you for tea?
I mean, it'd be nice to catch up.
And catch up. You kind of do. It's one of those moments where if we were watching ourselves...
2 seconds.
Yeah, if we were watching ourselves a rom-com, we know exactly the scene we're about to have. Because...
She's going to take off her glasses.
Oh, yeah, and suddenly, oh, my, Yume, you're so beautiful. As we go through the Let's Dress Yume montage, the palace has several servants who are here on hand to provide whatever Yume needs. And all manner of different potential garments are presented before her, some of which are ridiculous, some of which are less so. A mixture of very tight, form-fitting, almost medieval-style dresses, very Middenlander in appearance, to the far more florid, wide dresses that you get from the Reikland. To even some suggestions for southern fashions where they just dispose of parts of your... Well, why are my legs showing? This is wrong! A host of different garments. It swiftly becomes clear that you're more comfortable with what you're used to, which is largely the clothing conventions of Reikland, but with a bit more of a northern sensibility. And there's a reason for that, because the clothes of Reikland are silly. Now, not silly because they look silly. They often look quite extravagant, but they are very difficult to move in. Often widening out your body or giving it extra depth in ways that just might give you a certain grandiose appearance, particularly when one wears, say, a giant wig. But seriously, no. You're just no. Where the Middenlander equivalent is just a form-fitting dress, with often the corset on the outside and sometimes barbed on the outside as well. Because Middenlander greetings can sometimes be a little bit too handsy. And indeed, they have their corset on the outside, sometimes spiked, because of that, or because of other reasons. Who can be certain? Tradition is weird. And after almost 3 hours, you eventually agree to a host of dresses that are to be made for you.
Yeah.
The palace has its own staff to provide for the princess. Turns out her father hired her, a personal seamstress, when she was only 4, and has had one, the royal seamstress, the actual appointment, ever since. You get the royal seamstress, who has been the same person from then. He doesn't like to be called a seamstress.
Okay.
A seamster?
Everybody calls him the seamstress. He doesn't like to be called the seamstress.
Does he have a name?
His name's Rolf.
Rolf. Can I call him Rolf?
And Rolf has been trying to put on an upper-class accent for most of his time here in the palace. He has absolutely failed. His attempts at an upper-class accent are closer to, well, hey up, I am here to help you out with your dresses. You just sit yourself down. Yeah, he's just no. One of the greatest help in this whole progress has interestingly been Hunksa. Wait, what? Hunksa? His son. His son, who is one of the 2 valets of the Baron. Because as a Baron, he's supposed to have 2 valets, supposedly, as a Baron. And that's two men who basically are his footmen, for want of a better word. And one of them, Hunksa, is really unlike his father. You only know what Alamenowithe has told you of him when you first find out, and that's that he's been kicked out of half of the schools in the Empire.
Okay.
He is hair up, ridiculously, looking like a court. You almost want to say the word jester, but no, a courtly individual, let's say, from Reikland today. Not his normal look, but he's been pulled for a reason, because he's got taste. And he is the one who's all, no. He's not an old man, maybe 21, 22, a youth almost. It's astonishing he's managed to be thrown out of so many schools at this young age.
He must have started early, so he's very smart.
He's dressed in very lean tights with a stupid codpiece and good proper Nullner points. As he just leans there, one leg kicked up over the other, showing just how ridiculously long his points are. No, we can't do that either, seamstress. He says, look at the girl. She's tiny. Which means that we need to emphasize what she has, not what you think she has. And you're just not looking at the right bits. Look at her cheeks. Look at her smile. She's beautiful. Let us see someone who's beautiful. Look, would you want to fuck her in that? Would you? Would you want to fuck her in that? That's what I'm asking. I don't know if I think that is the correct sort of language, he says in reply. Oh, for fuck's sake, just stop it. Just stop it. Stop talking. You are very annoying. Look at her. She is beautiful. And you are making her look like a toad. A toad. Look at that outfit. It's a toad's outfit. We don't want toads. We don't want toads. You don't want to be a toad, do you?
No, thank you.
No, she would rather be a cat. Feline. Look at her move. He says, we want something that lets her move. No, that's Reiklander. If you put that on her, she'll be moving backwards, it's so heavy. She'll be toppling. Oh, for goodness sake. Hunksa really isn't like his father.
Well.
In between various outfits, he'll sit there and go, I'm surprised I never met you. Did you not go to any schools? You must have if you've been here. Have you been educated here?
Mostly at home.
At home? Oh, darling. I really wish I'd been educated at home. I would have gotten in so much trouble. You know, apparently I have 7 children.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well done.
That's only the ones to my tutors. I'm joking, of course. That's not why I got kicked out.
Except the one time.
Look, rumour doesn't equate to truth, no matter how much you might try and pretend. All right, I do have a few children. I shouldn't do. I had to make Daddy proud.
Of course, I'm sure he is very proud.
No, he's not.
Of course, you said that like...
But now I'm valet to the Baron. How could he not be proud? How could he not?
Of course.
His face? I might be rubbing it into it. That's a good noise.
I was thinking that too.
I might use that later. So, ugly? No, that one looks like a horse. And he takes you through them all.
Yeah, she'll explain some of the like colors and like Nipponese like bits and bobs she knows, and says, you know, like pink, light pink, white and light green are very auspicious. White and red also very good.
Oh, I love it. That means you have to love it. Seamstress. Seamer. Call me the seamer. Seamstress. And those. Can we not do those colours? I mean, we are in the Middenheim. As he pulls her face. Can you please just stop and just do your job? I am doing my job exactly as I have been asked to, he says. But eventually we do arrive.
Nice.
At some nice outfits. They are mostly imperial dresses that you would expect to perhaps find in the south of Vinland. They take on many of the aspects of Reikland, the slightly more grandiose, but are grounded more firmly in, can I draw a sword and stab someone? And the answer
That's
is
so good.
yes, you can. Middenlander dress tends to be a touch more practical than the Reiklander dress, where the noble men are left to do the sword drawing in general. The further north you go, the less that's the case.
Nice.
Until eventually you hit Nordland and everybody's just got blades everywhere and in their teeth. Hey!
That's where we should send Birdie. She'd fit right in there.
Yes, Birdie would fit.
They'd
in there.
love her in North.
But she's a Hellstein. They are northern line. They're just slightly north of Middenheim, just across the border. Yep. They're slightly south of Middenheim, just across the border.
They were south of
They are south. They're in Middenland. And it's been exhausting. You have no clothes, rather annoyingly, by the end of this, but you will. They're getting made for you.
Sure, yeah.
By the seamer. By the seamer. Hunksa has collapsed exhausted. He's not exhausted at all. He's got a date that he needs to attend to as he drinks like his 9th cup of wine and says, I am frightfully sorry that I have to be away, my darling ladies. He says, but I am forbidden from touching this one. I didn't think I should touch you because you look dangerous. But there are people that are quite different to that for me. Must go. Sorry. It has been charming to meet you, Lady Ume.
A pleasure.
He says, yeah, well, maybe later. He goes off. But I know more about you.
Don't let him fool you. He's very clever.
Beyond very clever valet, there is also the second valet, Sakinski.
Oh, yeah.
Sakinski says literally nothing. He finds this exceedingly uncomfortable.
Oh, is he here too? When this is
Yeah,
happening?
he sits in the royal chambers until he's given something to do by the Baron, and the Baron has absolutely nothing to do with their two valets. So he pretty much stuck here in the royal apartments all day as you're going through clothes after clothes. This is like not his thing. It's not his bag. He has no interest in this. Hunksa constantly teasing at the side, not his cup of tea. He ends up spending most of it sitting through in the main apartment with his arms folded, bored. Eventually, at the end of it all, he'll come through and he'll say, hey, so that turned out all right in the end, eh?
Yeah, well, I mean, as all right as it can be. I don't really like it, but
Right.
needs must.
Look, I'm here to ask a wee favour. Could you pass on a message to Birdie?
Yeah, of
He
course.
says, I don't think writing it down would be wise because I'm not so good with my letters. And if I got someone else to write it, it'd be a bit flowery. He says, could you just say something you think would sound appropriate for myself to herself that maybe we should go out again?
Okay. Have you been out already?
Aye. We went out. We had a nice meal, actually. It was really good. And then we went our separate ways and that was that. He says,
Well, yeah, asking her again is probably a good idea. Have you considered a small gift
a gift?
to send
I
me?
hadn't. No. That's a good idea. What do you think?
She likes swords.
She likes weapons. I think a lot of them were taken away from her, so maybe
Aye.
something nice.
A nice
I
dagger.
bet she does. Aye. Aye, it's a good idea.
She used to have that garrote wire in her braid. Perhaps like a prettier one that also works as a weapon. Maybe they won't take that away from her.
Fucking hell. He says, a fucking garrote with a bow in it.
Yeah.
Fuck. Folds his arms. Fuck.
With a pin on one end.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yes, something that we can present to her and it'll get through the Knight's Panther because it'll be a gift from you to decorate her hair, but it's actually a weapon. She'll love you for that.
A garrote, you think she'd like that?
Oh, I
Absolutely. When we
Absolutely.
first became friends, that's what she gifted me. She did!
I know.
Huh. Right. Fair enough. I mean, I've got no duties just now, so, aye, fuck this, I'm going to town. Let's go find something. Maybe go to the music shop. Piano wire works good for that. He says, as he goes off. Thanks very much, ladies. Great. So off he goes to buy a garrote. a symbol of his affection.
A decorative garrote for
Yeah.
her hair, not
It's
just
attached.
any garrote. Attached to like a hairpin.
Yeah.
Quite. No.
We'll have to supervise it once it comes back to
We
me.
can-
He is definitely going to nail this one.
We can attach little pearls to it. It'll be beautiful.
Well, he's going to have to give it to Ume to give to her anyway, so
quite.
it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Which leaves you both alone, as much as one can be alone, inside the Imperial Palace, with a couple of servants moving by every once in a while, dropping in extra foodstuffs, pouring wine as required, but effectively alone to your own devices, looking out over the great snowy wasteland that is the land surrounding Middenheim.
There was another reason I asked you here, she said,
Oh, okay.
continuing the conversation like it was 3 days ago. 'Cause, I wanted to ask you about something that I had heard from my master. And I was thinking that because I believe your family are only, I think you said, well, fewer generations removed from the events, like my family, that maybe you would have heard stories from your father and would be a good person to perhaps know more about it.
About what?
So it's fair to say that the number of generations of the imperial family is surprisingly small. If we consider the many emperors that have ruled in the empire in the past 2,500 years, including the time of 2 emperors, or the time of 3 emperors, or the Dark Ages where every other person was an emperor, all of them adds up to a big, big number, wherein upon there's been 18. Just 18.
Yes.
A significantly smaller number. But what the hell she's referring to, you have no idea.
Yes. And yes, I know some, and my grandfather is the 18th emperor, so yes, there's less of us.
What do you know about the world before it was moved, when it was cold?
The world when it was cold. I don't know if we necessarily
You see,
spoke of it that way.
my master told me a story. And it was actually a funny story. A very auspicious day. That's irrelevant. And I had reason to ask my master what dragons were.
Okay.
So, let us imagine a room not longer than maybe 3 elementalites by 3.
Oh. Elemental length.
Elementalites.
And lounging in the centre of this on a chaise lounge that is tattered, torn, and has seen the stains of life is an elf with long, dark hair. He is wearing a tiny pair of leather pants and nothing else. And he is lounging like this, with one hand cast out towards the side, another over the top of the chaise lounge, and this one clasping at a rather dirty goblet full of wine, cheap wine at that. As he sips at it, over on the other side is Alamenawith.
She's got her head like this on the chaise lounge at the bottom. Look at it.
And how is she dressed?
Pretty well.
Oh, very well, as I recall.
Very well. Like, her face is perfect. She's dressed for court in this grubby
It's
room.
astonishing the lack of difference between the Alamenawith of Middenheim right now and the Alamenawith that was there back then in the Golden Hoop.
Except her face is more human.
Much
Human-y elf.
more. The human-y elf before her face, well, lost that benefit.
Changed.
Episode 20-something, that disappeared.
Bet Volkmar wouldn't have shouted at me so much if I'd looked like that.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait, it would have been more.
And she sits there, looking exceedingly pretty, saying, "What are dragons, master?" So he goes, "Oh my God. You really don't know what dragons are? How can you not know what dragons are? You passed through Nagaroth on your way here. You spoke to your uncle and you don't know what dragons are. Oh my God."
And the man that I like,
He kicks up his feet and theatrically sits.
his banner is a dragon, and I wondered what it was.
You don't... Your education is my responsibility, I suppose. It takes a drink, puts the glass down on the edge of the stage lounge, balances it on the edge, it sits there, and then turns to you. It's just sitting on the...
Of course.
There is no way it should still be sitting there.
Of
He
course
turns
it-
around and goes, dragons. Dragons. All right. All right. Alamanawith. Long time ago, the world was ruled by dragons. Everything was ruled by the dragons. They soared across the sky, ruling imperiously. They ruled not just the earth, but everything that crawled upon it and within it. And in those days, that was a lot of things. There's far more than there is scurrying people in this city. And nothing could stand before the dragon. Nothing. Until they came. Them. The old ones. That is what they were called. In silver ships that floated through the places in between. They appeared in the skies, and they sailed down from the heavens. And they came to rule. And the dragons were not happy. It came to war. Can you imagine a war at the beginning of time? Dragons on one side and these great invaders on the other. And invade they did. Forces uncounted swarmed across the earth as the dragons looked down at their perfection and wept tears. It was a bloody war, but not short. But these silvered creatures, these old ones, they preferred heat. Heat the dragons knew. They were the masters of heat. They could summon it whenever they wished and bathe the land with their breath. But they did not simply want that, they wanted more. So they took the gem that was our world, and they saw the beautiful light of Sul, and they pooled them together, binding them with threads that were tight, and the world moved towards Sul and got hotter. What was once what we would think of as winter became summer, a perpetual summer. Oh, how things changed in our little world. And it changed to the better for the invaders. The dragons were not ready for this. They preferred the cold. They preferred the mountains. They preferred the deep. They preferred the frigid air. And this heat that they ruled, was too much for them. And they started to go to ground, where the forces of the invaders waited for them. It was a bloody slaughter. A slaughter that caused some to turn elsewhere. Elsewhere. And we all know what lies beyond. This is before the great cataclysm. Before even yours truly. Long before me, actually.
Were the elves then?
Oh, yes.
When it was cold?
They made them.
Oh.
The invaders. Well, not strictly true. They allowed them to be. The gods made us. But they allowed the gods to exist. And the gods, when they came, liked what they saw, this world that had been chosen. And they remade it to their own purpose, this warm, verdant world. They reshaped it. And what a beautiful world they made. A world that could allow something like you or me to exist. Perfect creatures. Reaches out for his goblet. Pops it back down again. It wobbles slightly and then just stops. Perfect. So beautiful. Althuan, as she first was imagined, quite unlike anything that it is today, a ravaged, tortured land, riven by magics that are uncontrolled, and pathetic creatures that think that they can survive there. But I shan't, picking up his goblet, I shan't really dismiss my kind so easily.
Do the dragons remember?
Some. Most are too young. Some the gods bound into service. Others, they stood in their fight against the old ones. Others, they just hid. They were the dragons, great lizards of the sky, with wings and arms, and claws and teeth. Magnificent creatures, truly magnificent. I have known a dragon or two in my time. I love them all, says. You would too. Some are servants and slaves now. Some are pathetic, broken creatures. And the cataclysm came, it broke the world. And the chaos gods, those who would see everything destroyed, they wreaked havoc untold. Unleashed magic you could not understand, and neither could anyone else. It took the gods to understand what had happened. They taught us, to a degree, how to survive. Dark times. So what are dragons? They're everything from pathetic little broken creatures to magnificence made manifest. The emperors of the world, if you would. But they don't all remember. Very few do. If you ever meet one, run.
Right.
They are often maddened creatures. Dwarves despise them, hate them, because they like the deep, cold places under the earth, just like the dwarves. And they fight for it. They fight for what's theirs. It is sad. It did not need to be that way. But the dwarves, like we, were creatures of the old ones. They were made to kill dragons. They're dragon killers. That is what a dwarf is. In my eyes, at least. Picks up his goblet. Never thought of them as anything other than dragon killers, personally. Which makes them very small creatures in my mind. I like dragons. We were taught to ride them, to use them. It was a foolish era. Dragons shouldn't be slaves. Althwin is a horrible place. I do not recommend you visit it. Nagaroth, you've been by, is even worse. They use the dragons like slaves. There are very few who understand what they truly are. Who care? They just like the power they provide. Dragons, they are a sweet nectar to entice a creature like you, for they would bow before you and make you feel powerful because of what lies in your blood. But if you are willing to use slaves, then sure, go ride it. I think we're done, he says.
Of course.
I have no real care anymore for dragons. I don't want to see this anymore. Adora Bell, she's done. It's time for you to go to work. As Alamenawith tells the tale of the dragons and how, at least,
It put him in a
Juros.
right mood.
Juros spun it.
So, do you have stories of the world before?
I do, but again, before we go into that, I feel like I should reiterate, it was not okay how he treated you, okay? Like, we should say this more often. Like, I understand elves feel things differently, but, like, it was not nice. Yes?
You are not the first person to have told me that.
Okay, good. Okay,
But
good.
they were human, so I did not listen.
Uh-huh.
And you are Ume, so I will.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I know people like that. You know, my family is weird. I understand why. I just, think it should be called out. Anyway, yes. My dad told me some stuff. I think it kind of relates to it, but the dragons weren't mentioned necessarily. So the kind of origin myth, right, of our world starts with one creature, one being, who gains sentience. Before, there was nothing, and then there was light, there was sound, there was something that was able to realize it was a thing, right? And they are the first god creature, who essentially is an ancestor, I guess, of our family. I talked to you about the goddess trapped in the tree.
Yeah, the one that jumped into the moon.
That's a different person. That's their first child.
Right.
Or one of their children.
But that dates it because the moon only came at the cataclysm.
Yes, so they had, but our family is very long-lived. So this entity was from before.
Yes.
And then from it, with it were other 8 entities that came from it. Which,
not quite true.
Well,
they all self-actualize as well in the same fashion as the first one. None of them were born.
So there were 9 who just sprung into existence as god-like sentiences.
Yes, and I believe they were we called the 8 winds of magic.
What you call the 8 winds of magic. Not what you call, that's what you call it. They call
the Empire.
Yes, the Empire. And then my father, he kind of explained that like they needed a place to be, because the way the place that they wasn't really a place they could meet and talk, right? They don't have like a physical form.
Oh, so they're still in the aether. So when you say they're in some kind of place that isn't physical.
Yeah.
Right, I see. They've sprung into sentience somewhere
else.
Right.
And then he made an analogy about an oyster, which is this place, and the grit within the oyster creating a pearl, which is our world.
That is what I said.
Yes, I think so, right?
Yes, that the aether is everything and reality is the grit. And that's why they don't like us.
But at first, that place was a place where they could meet, a place where they could be.
Yes, like in my myths, that the gods came to the world.
Yes, exactly.
To see it.
So so these 9 would come to the planet, and then because the way my father put it, because they had children, 20 children.
Right.
And then these 20 children, who were essentially gods themselves, gods of mountains, rivers, that kind of thing, they are the gods that essentially fought back against those original 8, at least, when they fell. And who also taught us, the Nepalese, formed 20 clans and helped our imperial family fight back against them.
I see. So in my myths, I would have 20 gods that fought the ruinous powers.
Not true, much more than 20. There was hundreds.
There was hundreds,
thousands.
but lots of them died, right?
Yeah, you're making, there is no analogy for a 20.
There's no...
existing in the pantheon, are at least 23, possibly more gods. Yeah.
So there's no... But we do know that the symbols are similar.
Definitely. From what you saw on top of Brass Keep.
And...
Right, so we didn't have 20, we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
And potentially, depending on how you define it, we have that whole thing about what is a spirit, what is a demon, what is a god, right? Like, technically, it could be 100. I don't really know.
Right.
I don't think my dad
But
knows.
the 20 children who fought against their parents
Yes.
founded your lines.
Except my line. We are descendants of the first goddess, I guess we call her a goddess. The one trapped in the tree. Which that happened around the time that I think is the Great Cataclysm. Because the story is that she had a lover, and Nippon fell and all that kind of stuff. And then the lover gets trapped in more sleep. So it must be around that time, because I know that the people of Nippon predate that, because we have ways of talking about stuff that are before that moon existed.
How do you mean?
So one of the things that I don't fully understand, as all things, is that energy moves like the tides. You know how water, the tides, right?
Mm-hmm.
But before more sleep, there was a pattern
To the time.
to the tides of them coming in and out because of man-sleep, apparently.
And that fits with what Alumenowith was told in another time, which is the old ones made everything in perfect harmony.
The harmony
moon
of the
was
spheres, correct.
The Joros called that what the old ones had created, the harmony of the spheres. A pattern to everything. The moon was placed exactly where the moon should be placed to make the tides and the earth work.
Well, our religion is about harmony as well. So
you do have a way of speaking about before the moon came. So that is interesting.
Yes.
And the disharmony that's been brought by Morsley.
Morsley was something we use, created. I'm not sure, but certainly, according to the myths I know, the lover that fell and made Nippon fall to a certain extent was tricked into being trapped in it, I think. Question mark. And Geheimnisnacht.
Yes.
When Morsley comes closer in Nippon, it's almost like we tell the people that it's a happy day of celebrations because it looks that way, because we are tricking the people into thinking Nippon hasn't fallen. But the reality is that it's almost like coming closer to try and find their lover, the person that maybe tricked them, maybe still loves them, So, yeah, for the Imperial family, not a fun time. For Nippon,
a fun day.
A fun day, yes. So that's why back in the day, those 20 gods, they were the ones in charge of helping keep that harmony.
The Great Kami was their duty.
It was their duty, and so we kind of keep that going as best we can. I don't know if that answers your question. I have heard also of myths of dragons outside of Cathay.
What do you mean? What do you mean dragons outside of Cathay? Why would there be dragons inside Cathay?
Oh, well, when I was there with my family, when I traveled from Nippon, we stopped in Cathay. And I don't know this part of my backstory, but I'm assuming you heard about them at the very least.
Oh, you didn't just hear. One of them came down to greet your mother.
Yes, they.
Ying Ying.
With a big flying dragon?
No.
No.
She appeared entirely human.
Yes, I believe.
And resplendent. You remember seeing her.
Human looking, But
did they just call them dragons then?
I mean,
They are.
they are, I guess.
They're dragons. But they can take human form.
I think so, yes.
The Emperor, the Grand Emperor of Cathay. It's a dragon,
What?
That's what I've been told.
as is his wife.
And I think
I have to tell Joris about this. I bet he doesn't know this bit.
And also why they don't really like religions, like we have them elsewhere. Like they have their own thing going on in Cathay.
Sounds like they probably wouldn't be too fond of elves.
Yeah. Yes, I'm not really sure. There are elves in Nippon, but I'm not sure about Cathay.
Hannah.
Well, they're just seafaring elves. We've met them.
I didn't know they went all the way to Nippon.
So it's an interesting little chat where Alamena explains parts from her past, where apparently her master had spun stories of dragons and first times and old ones and moving worlds and binding them together in a perfect harmony of spheres. By comparison, over on Yume's side, it's far less certain. Everything is bits and pieces of scraps of information that she's picked up that her parents have often kept from her. But she does have her own memories of meeting a dragon. Supposedly, she appeared human. Yin, who she saw dressed in blue, the great sea dragon of the east. She has loose memories of it, but not enough that she could describe her. Say what she sounds, looks, is like, other than just, it happened. She's also loosely aware that the dragon courts are filled with the dragon-blooded, the Shugagan, those who are the children of the dragons, humans, that they have had with humans. How that is, she doesn't know.
But, our family is also not entirely human. We're so human-looking.
So your family,
Yes.
didn't the Cathayans descend from dragons? What
Apparently,
do
yes.
you think your family descend from?
Well,
Etheric?
My family
Entities?
specifically, the unfortunate truth is that it's a etheric entity and a mortal-born god having children. That's why I guess we have a physical form. But because we...
But what I'm saying is your ultimate ancestor is, you told me about the 20 children and the 8 gods that were the winds of magic. And then you said there was one first one.
Yes.
Your ultimate ancestor is
that
the
first
one.
Yes. We call her Sakaki no Mikoto because she's trapped in a tree called the Sakaki. She has a different name, is long, and incandescent sun stuff. My dad knows it better than I do. But we speak of her as Sakaki no Mikoto. So we descend from her, and that's kind of like the important part, usually.
In the Aether, your spirit must be big.
And good at hiding.
I mean, there's nothing big in the Aether. It must be
noticeable, maybe. I'm not really sure.
Let's give you a slight angle on this, because it's something that Alamena has not any direct lore on, but it's something she has certainly received from her ever-reliable master, Joros, who most certainly had an opinion on it, largely because Alamena suddenly became quite aware of the fact that she was in danger.
Mm-hmm.
And she became aware that she was in danger because one day at court, she had felt attacked. Really attacked. But not by anything here. She was just suddenly terrified. Now, as the Adorabelle, this perfect courtier, this marvellous courtesan who has this perfect face, who was striding through, it's not known for that figure to show sudden fear, but you felt it hard. And you didn't understand why. And you have to go back and ask, what happened today? Yoros, as is often the case with him, on that day, sitting on the side of his chair, bored, says, "Oh, it's my fault. I went for a trip. I forgot that you needed me close by." Yeah, that was my fault. It's your soul. It's a problem. All of us. We all have the same problem. Everything's got a spirit. Little darling, everything. Everything that you see, whether it's a mountain, a stone, you, me, little humans, they all have spirits. They're spirits of different sizes, qualities, quantities. Imagine them like food. Some food is good, some food's delicious, some food's big, some food's small. You cook yourself a dragon, and you know what that is now. You cook a dragon, and it's going to be big food. Apple, quite small. Flake of an apple, very small little bell. Humans, most of them are like, picks up some dust, tosses it. That is their souls. They're wizards. They're different. Looks around, picks up a glass, pours it. They're like, now there's some dregs. That's the wizards. We're succulent. Now, we don't necessarily, not all of us, we're not all bright and incandescent like a full goblet of wine. Some of us maybe half a goblet of wine. Like that. Some of us maybe a little less. Like that. Then there's you. Oh, darling. Oh, the cup runneth over. Oh, dear. And on the other side, when they can see you, they want to lap at what you offer. And there are certain entities, demons out there that will, oh, darling, they'll just keep on eating till there's nothing left of you. They're always on the lookout, which is why we are careful. Like I wasn't today. My fault, sorry. My fault. But it's the case for everything. You might be surprised. Sometimes the most unexpected things, their souls are quite unlike anything you'd ever expect. I once met a coin. Simple coin. It was given to me by a trader 2,000 years ago. Could have been when that coin was made. Its soul. I held in my hand a god. Its physical manifestation. I could feel it. This wasn't a divine artifact that had been imbued by the gods. I held its material component in my little hand. So I rubbed it all over myself because I wanted to see if it would do anything. It didn't. It was just a coin. I could bend it, I could break it, I could melt it. It wouldn't make any difference. The same number of component pieces would exist.
So even if you had destroyed the coin, the bits of the destroyed coin would still be...
Turned out that was a lie. I thought that was going to be the case. But I found the coin in my pocket the very next week. It was a delightful moment. Oh, I'd stamped on it. I'd done all sorts of things that would normally be left to the deeper recesses of the blast hole. But here it was. I tossed it away, it came back. And I realized that it wanted to be close to me. Not that it had sentience. It was just a piece of materia. Nothing more and nothing less. I've still got it. I have no idea whose it is. I just know what it is. Could be this one. Tosses a coin. Oh, it's not. Or this one. Get out of my room. I'm done with you.
Again. Abuse.
Just before he locked me in a room for 3 years and completely forgot about me.
Yay.
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 I forget you had the horrible introduction to the world.
So, what I don't understand is, he said that gods have physical bits, and physical bits have god bits, or etheric bits. But your spirits go back and forth between the aether and here. Not like demons, because demons they can't abide here. So how do the spirits, why are the spirits different?
Because, but they have a material bit, like...
I'd also think it's I think it's worth noting that you're not entirely sure that the spirits that you encounter in the aether, you're encountering in the aether. Because when you go through a Torii gate into the Shinkai, is that even the aether?
Sure.
Or is that a different place? Because you're aware, for example, that Leopold went to a different place when he went through the gate that was that stone circle in the Daemon's Bowl. And he didn't go into the aether per se. So maybe the Shinkai isn't the aether. Maybe it's something different. It's a different place between. The aether is impossible to understand, but the Shinkai, you've been in the Shinkai.
Yes.
You've played in the Shinkai.
And looked like myself.
Yes, absolutely.
So the spirits are not demons. They're not from the aether. Your gates don't...
They might be.
They might be, but they might... Some of them...
They might be moving into the Shinkai and then from the Shinkai into the material realm.
I just wondered, have you ever thought that when that fox found you, because you were asking what you need to do, you went round and asked us all, and your fox used to be different and now it has changed. Have you ever thought that it might be you? And what you just need to do...
Thinks back to literally 20 minutes ago. Potentially. Oh, well, so I saved it because a gate was being closed, right? Forcibly. That's where we met, and I kept it. Was it just another part of my soul that I just kept in a different receptacle?
No,
maybe.
No, what I mean more literally than that. So our souls are connected to us.
Yes.
Right, so we are here, but we're also in the aether. And for most people, the bit of us that's in the aether can never come here. It's... Right, what I'm saying is, what if your soul did what your spirits do, come through the land that... the Shinkai? Come through the Shinkai, got itself a receptacle to be contained within, and then met you. And so when you were... And perhaps that's why your parents had to take you away, because that's not done, doesn't happen. And so when you were young, the fox was playful and innocent and childish. And as you started to experience terrible things with us, when you sent the fox in your place, you were actually sending yourself to your own... You would be angry with yourself. And as you have floundered and lost your way in the world, the fox that is your soul is also doing that. And that's what I thought when you were talking about what you thought you might need to do. And I think maybe you should stop. You know, you told me about bringing the spirits back into balance. And that you have to do certain things for those spirits.
Yes.
Well, maybe the thing you need to do for that spirit is find your own self and balance yourself first.
Does it have much?
I mean, with what little you know, and it's fair to say you don't know as much as you'd like.
Yes.
The Shinkai, it's a reflection of the mortal realms. It's not like the boundless, infinite aether.
Not like
It is.
Elric explained he saw, for example.
Quite. It's another world that is akin to the mortal realms. And over there, that's where the spirits live. And they live entire lives. They do stuff. They have entire lifestyles and cultures on the other side. And they reflect the nature of the various kami that live there. And if the kami should move into uncertainty, move into imbalance, then the nature of the Shinkai also changes, because it's not like the mortal realms where everything is fixed according to the laws of cause and effect, so to speak. Over there, the kami's mood is what changes everything. And should they begin to fall towards uncertainty, it will begin to change the Shinkai. The Shinkai, in turn, will begin to reflect through into the mortal realms. And misfortune, bad omens, bad things begin to occur locally. And indeed, spirits might start popping up that are out of balance into the material realm where they're not supposed to be. In such an instance, it then requires a priest to come along and pass through and calm down the spirits. Hey, spirits, chill out, man. It's not that bad. And they may succeed, they may not. And if they don't, and they move to full uncertainty and then eventually fall to potentially chaos, the whole gate collapses. And when that occurs, everything goes wrong. That doesn't happen very often, fortunately. But you do know that all of the original 8, all of them, their gates collapsed. They all fell into uncertainty. They all fell. And that the other 20, nobody wants them to fall. And then, you know, there is a competing religion that says, well, screw them all, just close the freaking gates. They're no longer open. We no longer need to appease these spirits. We no longer need to make these spirits be in or out of balance or anything else. We can just live our lives here in the mortal realms, where we have finite churn of life. Over there might be just an eternal cookhouse that's constantly serving out food to the various spirits forever. On the other side, it's cycles of life instead. And splitting the two is something that your mother thinks is a wise thing to do. It's one of the reasons she's here, because she thinks it's already happened here.
Yes.
And all of that doesn't necessarily state that if she was correct, that somehow you met your own soul. It seems to you relatively unlikely, but also, given the nature of what you believe that particular kami may be, it's a nasty one that when it falls big, big, bad. It doesn't matter if it's your soul or anyone else's. You don't want it to be that.
Yes.
That much is certain. It certainly sent Jiro off in one.
Yes. I don't know. Whatever it is, I need to figure something out, and me being more certain in myself will certainly help with that.
Yes, because it is connected to you somehow.
Yes. I think, yeah.
I wonder also, here, there's a way to bond people as a familiar. Bond creatures as familiar.
Like that book.
Like that book. Wizards take familiars. But it's a up-down relationship. There's a master and there's a servant. It's not, I don't think it's a very pleasant thing to do to a creature.
I think it's kind of, from my understanding, a little bit like what my mother's religion is.
But the key to that is that both parties have to be willing. And it can be ended, but both parties have to agree. But you can trick people or things, I think, into becoming a familiar, a bound spirit servant. I mean, they're just spirits, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what my mother did with the fox.
To you?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I was getting at. So perhaps in a way it's what I would think of, or what Elric might think of as a familiar bonded to you.
And what I will say is that, because I was thinking back to more clues of where my family would be, when these 8 gates of that second generation of gods, I guess, in a sense, they fell, my family was there to force them back.
To fight them.
So, does that help state where they were?
So, in Alamenowite's very basic mythos, right? There's the cataclysm,
Yes.
where actual elves, the gods had deserted the world and actual elves were fighting.
Yes.
And Anarion pleads to get a god to come and help him.
Yep.
And before that,
Yep.
there's a war in heaven.
Yes.
Where gods fought gods.
Yes.
And the very unclear thing to her, which will remain unclear because it is unclear, is how that timeline fits with the old ones being there at all.
That seems fair.
Yeah. But for her, there's definitely a cataclysm fight. And before elves were involved really in the fight, the gods were fighting amongst themselves. Elves were around because the gods talked to them and they were their children.
Yeah.
But it really was a god to god fight.
No. From what she knows, it was a slaughter. Not god to god fight, a slaughter.
A slaughter of gods.
Everything. Mortals, gods, everything.
And that's because
there's
some of
no
the
clear
gods
distinction
just
of it.
turned.
God, yes.
Yeah, a section for a...
It doesn't matter. No, not 4. That's 4 that are left.
4 that are left.
Much like there's only about 20 plus elven gods left.
So
it was a war.
Section of gods turned against another section of gods and they slaughtered everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because no one was prepared for it on the other side, it was an absolute slaughter.
But for sure that could be the 8 around the 8 and the 20 when the 8 rebelled against. So the 8 You said
fell,
the 8 gods fell and the 20
rebelled.
children fought against them.
Yes.
In my history, there is a war in heaven before the cataclysm where some gods turned against other gods and slaughtered everything, mortals, gods alike, until there was only a very small number of gods left. And that's when Azurian was like, enough, and separated the gods from the mortal realms.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and that's when the judge,
king, the divine king of heaven,
the divine king of heaven,
who is a judge. Judge is deep low on the list of things. He is the divine emperor,
the divine
of all
emperor
heaven.
Of all heaven, stepped in and said, "Enough is enough. The gods will never come to that place that they were using to meet ever again." And the gods wept for their children. Our gods wept for their children because we were their children and they would miss us.
And you said something about, I think in the past you talked about Azurian being related to Phoenix, right?
Yes, because he was killed in the war and came back from the dead. Like a phoenix? Something like that.
I can even tell you a tale, because you've heard this one also.
Oh, yeah, from Joros.
Yes, from Joros. So let's spend
surprise.
a different time. Joros is walking through the streets with you at his side. He's almost a foot ahead, pardon me, would be better, taller than you are, as he's meandering along, his long dark hair on his side, looking at children and just not being happy, passing by other humans, occasionally sniffing. As he goes, "Oh, of course," he says, from nowhere. This is not a continuation of a conversation. This is not something that had been brought up. Yeah, indeed. He says, "There was that moment at the very beginning when Azurin fell," as he just stops and he looks at you. "It was murdered. Murdered. Nobody thought that the god, emperor of all, could be murdered. Why would they? He was all-powerful. He had created the world. He was the divine creator. He came before all of us. Azurin. His very name means life. His very name means us. His very name means everything. He was impossible. And in the War of the Gods, he just watched. I mean, he just sat there just watching. I mean, can you imagine just lounging around all day watching? That is what he did. Literally nothing. Every war he would watch. Every fight he would watch. His children were slaying themselves. Crashing together in great waves. Bloodshed beyond number. Uncounted souls cast into the oblivion. And he just watched, and one day the blood god could take it no longer. They had triumphed completely. wiped out forces unknown as people are listening to him as he looks around. Oh, don't pay attention to me. And they all don't. And they walk in different directions. And he goes, and he came down, corn, blood dripping from his axe. And he looked to the heavens where Azurin lay. His beauty, his perfection, and his anger was untold. He was burning with wrath because he had petitioned the Lord of Heaven 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times more to end the war, to bring it all to a conclusion. And lo, Azurin did nothing. And at the end of this war, which took place somewhere in southern Lustria, I'm told, and he took to the heavens to bring down the King of all gods. And we looked on and wept. That is what I was told. For the blood god was to fall. His rage would be his end. And he was the general of those who would bring an end to the mortal realms. And everyone knew the mortal realms were saved that day. Except when the corpse fell from the sky, it was Azurin. And the heavens roared with the blood god's might. For he now ruled the heavens. He had ascended the throne, and he had struck down what could not be killed. It was a bad time, I'm told, for the gods. They got a bit upset. They split completely. On one side, you got the Kadai. They believed in Azurin's divine plan. They just continued on with it, pretending that he hadn't died. But they didn't have anyone to actually sit on the throne. So Kurna stepped forward, all antlers and spears, and he knew what he could do. The young king thought he could somehow take place. He couldn't, so he and his wife took it, let's say, exception to each other. They drew together and as a divine pairing sat upon the throne. What an idiotic seriously, do you think you could replace Azurin with someone with giant horns and butterfly wings? No, is the answer. As it turns out, the Kadai, they just died. They started off in their thousands. And as every year passed, more of them died. Fortunately, on the other side, we had a different plan. Kaitharai, the underworld gods. Oh, they had a different plan. It was fuck Azurin, because he's a dick and he's dead. His plan is stupid, and if we're going to save the mortal realms, we'll just do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. So Hecate bound all of the magic that the world had thrown up at them and created dark magic and cast it down on the forces of chaos and showed them that they were nothing in comparison to the gods. It turns out Tzeentch had something to say about that. Just didn't say that. But did. Old pupil. Didn't get on so well. And turns out they just had a big magical clash. Tzeentch had a different version of how things should play out. Hecate won. For a while. In fact, all of the underworld gods won for a while. There was some swapping and changing. Morai Heg, you know nothing about her, of course. She flitted from side to side. At one point on one side, another point another. Where should I go? Eventually she ended up Yenlai. She sat in the middle, harmonious. I sit with no side. I am death itself. Oh, by the way, I've seen the future. It's awful. How could anyone put up with her? Well, I know I couldn't. Ever. The worst. That's what she was. Mm-hmm. And of course, Ladriel, she was fine. Eventually, there was almost no Kadai left. And the Chaos Hordes gathered. Innumerable hordes. And they gathered at the shrine of Azurin. You've been there. Not that you remember it, I've been there.
When often?
I've seen the eternal flame of Azurin. There was no flame at this point. There was merely the throne of the gods. Now you might think, oh, then surely the blood god's there. Nothing so physical. I really dislike the way you think in such simple terms. Material components are quite unlike the immaterial reflections. We've discussed this already, Elemental Wife. Why is my wine finished? Go get me some wine.
We're in the street. Like, where's the wine?
Go get me that wine there. That human's drinking. Get it for me. Get it for me.
I'm getting it.
Thank you. That's better. Much better. Where was I? The pyramid. Oh, gods. They thought that this is where they could have their last stand. Bless them. So few of them left. Less than I can count on my 2 hands. Hoeth was there spinning spells. Ladriel was doing what she could with her mists. But it was a fool's fight. The blood god was there. The great sorcerer Zinj, the master of fate, he who started its entire rebellion, he was there. Nurgle. Oh, Nurgleth, the lord of disease. He was fat and gloating in his pleasure at what was to come, the slaughter, the feast that his little children would have. His belly split and they spilled forth in their uncounted billions. And they swarmed into the place. And the young prince was there also. Slaneth, the lord who would devour every soul it could, it had taken that taste for the elves and their gods. It was the great drinker, she who thirsts and could never be satiated. She danced up that pyramid to where the gods were, and she slew from side to side as corn took to the air, and from the divine throne laid down wrath. Zinch, the spinner of fate, undid anything the gods could even imagine. You would think that Hecate could have helped, but she was at the pyramid of Cain. Caina! They cared nothing for the Kadai. They had abandoned them and their foolish fight. Why protect this pyramid? Azuran meant nothing. He was dead, but they continued to fight. Kana, spear in hand, broken. Spear in hand. Fought against the gods at the top of that pyramid. His wife at his side, bleeding, dying, because of their foolishness, thinking that they could hold off against everything. Most of them died. The gods laughed that night. And just when that pyramid was surrounded completely, swarming to the top, the flame burst forth from the top of the pyramid. Hot and rising from it, the phoenix, sacred birds of rebirth. Corn looked down and knew fear in his heart, for Mart might be coming. He paused as he came from the heavens and struck with his axe for that fire, desperate to halt whatever it was that might be gathering. Hoeth, in his desperation, threw himself towards the fire, rather than die at the hands of these horrific entities. He would prefer to die in the flame of his creator. And then the birds flew high, and stepping from that fire came a lone figure, no giant, no great towering master, no, a lone elf, with a mask, sinuously split in the middle, black on one side, white on the other. A bow in one hand, a sword in the other. And he stepped forth from the flame, and he killed anything that dared face him. Corn fled. Zinj took to the skies. Nurgle rolled down that pyramid and waddled back to the seas. And Slanesh paused for a moment before her divine master and bowed. But before that bow could be laid towards her heart, she vanished. Azuran returned. But Azuran did not stop. Any who dared Oppose him, he hunted down and slew, until they either accepted his rule or died. And that is when he made his commandment that none, no god, would ever return to the mortal realm. Ever. The Kadai were livid. They had fought at his side for his truth. And now they were to leave their home? They were too tired, slaughtered, hardly any remaining. They slunk back into the realm of the gods. They fought. They seduced. They begged. Ereth Kail herself took Azurin aside, and it is said that they spent some time together. And she failed. Such was her livid anger that she cursed Azurin forever. But nevertheless, one by one, they agreed, and they left the mortal realm. Of course, there was the end line. Those who stood apart, Loek was dancing apart, hiding in the places in between. Nowhere! Not one place was unseen by the judge. The divine king hunted every one of them down and banished them until there was only two left, Morai Heg and Ladriel. Ladriel was his wife. Morai Heg. It was more complicated, if I'm honest. Morai Heg said she wouldn't go, because to go was to leave the strands of fate that she understood. To lie in the realm of gods was to lose her meaning, was to move into a place where there was no certainty, where there was no fate, where there was no death, where there was no beginning and no end. And she would not abide this. She would rather die. So he killed her and sent Morai Heg into the realm of death to rule there forever. But in the realm of death, so close as it was to the scheme of the mortal realms, she could continue to weave. As for Ladriel, well, they had a long-standing deal. It continued, and she wandered off. Then Azuran himself, done, stepped back into his flame, leaving the world without gods. Not one left. None of them. But that didn't make things better, because we were at war, and the elves were at war with all of the ruinous power's might, which had not been dismissed. And if Azuran had been kind, he would have killed all of them also. But the world was inundated with uncounted demons, mutants, creatures of the dark gods. So the war didn't just continue. The war grew worse. Oh, we're almost at the manual plats.
Well, what I was trying to say was that one of the 20 colors, winds of magic that my father explained was called Asherah, and the animal was a phoenix, and it kind of reminded me of that. It is weird. There seems to be some links. Like, for example, you were talking about how elves can travel through tree roots, right? Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. The imperial tree where the goddess is trapped has 8 roots, from which, for example, we make our weapons, right?
Right.
They are said to go down into the earth and split into 20. And they not only reach the corners of Nippon, my parents thought they reached here, all the way across. As if the world above here in the Empire is almost spiritually dead, but somehow it is still connected.
Well, I know of the Wheeled Way, which is how the Lorelorni elves move around. in that there was an entry point to it in Middenheim that meant poor Alavandrel is probably stuck at home now. But one could theorize that goes into a spirit realm connected to the wood, and in a spirit realm, because you're further from the material and nearer to the aether, distance has less meaning. And then the Azrai have the world roots.
Do they?
Yes.
Good.
I have my receipts. The episode in Altdorf, her nephew / grandson / whatever he is says that Azrai have opened the world.
Nicely remembered, and yes, they did.
And that means, and importantly, if
you recall from that, your sister had allied with the Azrai.
Yes, but what that implies is that the Wheeled Way is limited to the reach of the Laurelorn forest. It can't be a coincidence there's a grove in Middenheim. Either once the Laurelorn forest extended the whole way, or they just planted. I think it probably extended and was cut down. But maybe they planted it. Whereas the implication is the world roots are under the control of the Azrai, but go much further. Not connected to the Azrai's forest, which suggests, again, a different way of moving around in a different spirit land. And my master once said to me that he could take me through the Aincan, so take me into the Aincan, move me through, and come out somewhere else. But he said it would be horrible, because spirit worlds presumably are, well, they are what they are. A spirit world of a wood is different to a spirit world of shadow. So
I think it's fair to say that I'm going to drop. You got Lauren upon.
Yes. Yeah. I also have Lord Kami.
Lord Kami, even better. So yeah, roll that, please.
What do I know? Yes. I mean, it's only one success because I only have 10.
Yep, that's enough. It leads you to a conclusion that you don't think is deeply controversial. But the Shinkai is, in the greater scheme of things, in the pawn, in balance. Oh, there's problems. Often many problems, and it requires someone, a master of Kodo, to come along and fix it all up and make all the spirits happy again, whatever else it might be. The Shinkai is in good order. But what if there is nobody there to tend it? The answer is everything collapses and falls into imbalance, suggesting that all of the rest of the world's Shinkai is a horror zone. That seems obvious, and there's a part of you that thinks maybe your mother's wrong. Maybe your dad would be a better route towards passing through a gate and attempting to pacify the local spirits and bring the Shinkai in other parts of the world into balance, because that would make the world itself potentially more spiritually active, more spiritually aware, and just genuinely better. Less mutation. Mutation, after all, is a result of an imbalance in the Shinkai.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting.
Yes. It sounds like it's a similar place, perhaps. These parts that can be moved through to the Shinkai, the place that I was talking about, and how it's affected. The inside and the outside reflect each other.
Maybe once your people covered the whole world.
I don't know. They certainly potentially could travel other places. I think potentially the goddess has a remit, because otherwise why would she not protect the whole world from falling / at least the people, right? Why only Nippon? There must be a reason.
Well, what I was getting at was the reason was time and war and border pushes. What if once at the very beginning the remit was the world? The roots go all over the world, and over time she's had to retreat.
I mean,
or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe once she had a deal with the dragons of Cathay that they would look after Cathay and she would look after Nippon. And
I mean,
I don't know.
My father did see the trees, and like I can't remember what he said, but he did comment on them. But perhaps he saw Because at the time the pathway was still open. Perhaps he saw something in them that I cannot. He was very unhelpful. He just told me to look better, which is not.
Does Nippon have borders?
It's an island.
Oh, I didn't know.
Well, it's an island.
So it's an island.
It's a group of islands.
Yes, but
The thing is, what I would like to know is how Nippon and your ancestors relate to these mysterious old ones. It's clear from the bits and pieces that my master told me that elves were made by the old ones for a purpose. If he's to be believed. Dwarves were, or not made, he said not made, taken, and maybe like you would take a dog and turn it into a different kind of dog over time. So maybe there were elves, and these mysterious old ones made them into something different, and the dwarves into something different.
Okay.
Is your ancestor an old one? Not
I
a
don't
god?
know. What I believe is the only time I remember encountering the goddess was the other day, and she looked like a fox. So I don't know.
I just struggle to, and it is a struggle, and he would never really. Where did they fit in this? What were they? Where did they go? Where did they come from?
It's a fascinating question that has posed itself to many a scholar down through the centuries, right back to the Cataclysm.
Where did they come from? Silverite.
Yeah, quite. Who are these crazy old ones? There are individuals in the world that would presumably know, that were old enough to have possibly even once seen them.
Yeah.
And it does leave us as the children of the children of the children of, in your case, 20 generations between you and the supposed old ones.
In my case, fewer, but
you don't know how many.
I don't
Exactly.
know them.
And it's a fascinating question, but it's a question that has ramifications. Both of the two women who are discussing this, one elf who is both extremely young and extremely old, a soul that is ancient and extreme, but a spirit that is young and barely knows itself. And on the other side, Nipponese royalty, the 20th generation of a royal unbroken line that goes back to, supposedly, the gods themselves. But they're hidden. This conversation is hidden. No one knows they're having it but themselves. As they sit there and their souls are hidden by the shadows and the mists of Ladriel, things change. Alaminowith, unbeknownst to both of them, mentioned something that causes the change to come to pass.
The others are going to be mad at me twice tonight.
Far away, a lone figure, a man with a mostly bald head, a ragged mixture of black and grey cloth, various holy symbols hanging around his neck, and his side a book that moves slightly underneath his hand. She looks down and goes, "What is it?" "Do we have a new master we need to..." He looks around. "I don't understand. I have to travel north. I don't want to travel north." The book on the front, small gears click in its cover, as if it's trying to find a way to open. He looks down at it. And then of a white crow comes in as he looks up with his almost blind eyes. Puts out his hand and the crow lands. "What is it?" That is one of the unexpected ramifications of the conversation. What does it even mean? There is another.
What does it do? What do they say?
Deep in the heart of Altdorf, a man is bowed over a book, flicking through the pages, candle burning at the side, long nose. He pulls out a pair of spectacles and places them on as he tries to read the words, clutches at a heavy amulet around his neck, looks down. I don't know if I can do this anymore. His face is long, thin to the side. The child says, there's nothing you can do about it. You're as damned as me now. Damn you, Gideon. I didn't want this. I didn't want this either, but here we are. And then, down in the corner, where all lines stop, a twist in the blackness of the shadow begins to thrum and move. Oh no, says the entity called Gideon, as it backs off. No, we're not ready for this. And colour starts lifting as Teugen stands up and goes, what is this? Well, this is not meant to happen yet. Over in the corner. And from there, a voice thrums. Sherutar Gitaru. And a silhouette of black humanoid form, colour wrapped around it, shakes. Master, it says, our enemy has diminished. It says, Sarthoriel is bound. We are almost free. Go. The child looks at Teugen, looks into the darkness in the corner, and sees an eye beginning to form, spiraling into place. So much colour lost in the middle of it, and it blinks as it looks at it. And one eye changes and looks exactly like the eye down in the darkness. I watch now, Sherutar Gitaru. I watch through you, no more lies. Teugen cringes as the demonic child looks round at him, looks down in there and says, right, so I suppose, nah. We better get you ready, Father. Looks over at Teugen. Well, this is what I bound you for. And that is where we draw everything to an end.